Chapter 571. The golden bat gorilla was a spirit beast whose strength lay in its coarse skin, thick flesh, and resistance to beatings. Furthermore, once it fell into a prolonged battle, it would enter a berserk state with extremely strong explosive power, so it really wasn't weak at all. But in the end, a fourth-class spirit beast was a fourth-class spirit beast, and the gap between third-class and fourth-class spirit beasts was actually very big. The third-class Crystal King Scorpion from before had been purely unlucky and had been countered by nature. The most important thing was that the land shark, which had activated its violent physique, and the green-furred dog, which had taken out an emerald green bone club of unknown origin, now had overall combat strength of second class on average, which instantly made the golden bat gorilla feel despair. With a gap of 2 grades, it had no chance of winning this match at all. Since that was the case, it might as well sit back and watch the show. At the very least, it would suffer less physical pain. In any case, Jinbei was already very satisfied with defeating the Crystal King Scorpion. No matter how bad this match was, it was still the rear guard. Honestly speaking, Jinbei's reaction put Xia Fei, who was a pet trainer, on the spot, and he was a little disappointed. In fact, Jinbei couldn't be completely blamed for this. The main reason was that in this era of peace, the bestiality of contracted spirit beasts had generally weakened to a certain extent. Furthermore, regular spirit beast duels weren't fights to the death, so the spirit beasts which specifically challenged various spirit beast dojos had long since lost the awareness of being wild beasts. Unfortunately, Xia Fei wasn't Jinbei's owner. If Jinbei's owner was here, he might be able to order it around by relying on the power of the contract. Xia Fei frowned as he looked at Wei Ji. What would Marshal Granduncle do at this time? Wei Ji actually didn't give too many pointers, but carefully observed the changes in the Bone King. The more he looked, the more he felt that this thing wasn't simple. In fact, Wei Ji had never expected Loopy Toad to actually think of refining the Bone King into such a magic treasure. Furthermore, it had been very successful, and it had the spatial follow-your-heart attribute, which could change into whatever shape Loopy Toad wanted. After a few rounds, Aluminum Small Fish, the land shark, gradually began to feel a little tired. It had never expected a mere green-furred dog to be so difficult to deal with. "I'm going to get serious." Aluminum Small Fish stared at Loopy Toad. Thinking this, the land shark took out a bag of myrtles and poured them all into its mouth. Loopy Toad stared blankly at this scene. It turned out that potato chips weren't the only snack that could stimulate this land shark's excitement. At that moment, the commentator guessed that a lot of people would raise doubts, so he immediately said, "According to the rules of the competition, snacks are not prohibited items." In fact, it was already equivalent to a stimulant. But because there were no rules in the competition, this type of spirit beast with a special excitement physique was able to skirt the line. In fact, in previous years, when the Spirit Beast Appraisal Center held a general meeting, there had been people who proposed to set up restrictions and rules for spirit beasts with special constitutions. However, it had never been approved, and it was said that it was still in the review stage. After eating the bag of snacks, Aluminum Small Fish curbed its spirit energy. The snacks it had eaten in just a few seconds had already given it a sense of excitement, but it didn't immediately attack, and instead jumped far away from Loopy Toad. Loopy Toad didn't immediately attack. It actually wanted to see what this cute little land shark was up to. Aluminum Small Fish took a deep breath, and its entire body began to inflate like a balloon. The golden bat gorilla sensed that something was wrong. This was clearly the prelude to an all-out attack. "Golden Bell Shield!" Jinbei shouted inwardly and actually took out its magic treasure, because it realized that this was going to be a large-scale group attack, and what it needed to do now was to stabilize itself. This was a fight between immortals, and Jinbei didn't want to get involved, nor did it want to get hurt, and even more, it didn't want to be directly knocked out of the arena. It was so big, it would actually be a little humiliating if it was knocked out of the arena in one move by these two little things. Although, it was already quite humiliating now. As Aluminum Small Fish continuously sucked in air, its body grew larger and larger until it finally swelled up into a huge black balloon. "Brother Dog, be careful. This should be a sound wave spell attack. Stabilize yourself. Don't let yourself fall out of the arena. Seeing this change, Weiji immediately relied on his rich commanding experience and on-the-spot experience to guess this land shark's next move, and he immediately warned Loopy Toad. Whether it was him or Loopy Toad, both of them could feel a tremendous amount of spirit power gathering inside this land shark's body. Weiji had already instilled his spiritual power into his ears and covered them with his hands. Burp! In the next moment, an earth-shattering burp whistled through the air like a tide, accompanied by a powerful wind that caused the entire arena to shake. The commentator in the booth was incomparably shocked as he watched this scene. This was because this sound wave attack was so powerful that even the glass outside the commentary room had already cracked a little. The enormous burp shook the world, and it was as if countless blades of wind were blowing in the air, lifting up all the bricks and tiles in the arena. All the spirit power in this shrill cry was concentrated on Loopy Toad. Loopy Toad stabbed the Bone King into the arena and gripped it tightly, afraid that it would be sent flying out of the arena by the impact of this powerful sound wave. Compared with the goldenback gorilla, it was really too light, and at that moment, it was only relying on brute force to support this impact. Everyone was stupefied at this momentum. The goldenback gorilla sweated profusely in its heart. Fortunately, it had been quick to take out the magic weapon Golden Bell Shield. Otherwise, it would have been sent flying right away. Because at that moment, even inside the Golden Bell Shield, Jinbei felt an indescribably powerful pressure that made its body fall back uncontrollably, and it had no choice but to lean forward with all its might. It's a little powerful. Loopy Toad narrowed its eyes and marveled in its heart. This soundwave spell was at least grade 4. The soundwave lasted for a long time and was very powerful. Furthermore, it came wave after wave, and the most frightening thing was that it was created by burping. The entire sound wave lasted for over 40 seconds, and it wasn't until the land shark let out all the air in its body that it calmed down. However, at that moment, the arena had already been turned into a mess by the sound wave just now. Loopy Toad was bewildered. What kind of sound wave spell is this? Weiji had investigated this land shark before, and he couldn't help narrowing his eyes as he said, "I've heard before that this land shark has a self-created sound wave spell that lasts for a long time and is very powerful. It has the destructive power of an explosion and can also set off endless wind. It looks like this sound wave spell was created by it. Loopy Toad, does it have a name?" "Yes." Chapter 572. A self-created spell, floating waves belch, and a grade 4 one at that. It looked like this land shark wasn't simple. Not only did it have a special constitution, its identity wasn't simple either. In fact, Loopy Toad had vaguely sensed this from the very beginning of the fight. This land shark's bloodline wasn't simple. It was probably a hybrid, but Loopy Toad didn't know what kind of bloodline it was. It was a pity that little Master Ling wasn't here now. Otherwise, he would have used the Great Blood Origin spell to sense this land shark, and he would have been able to list out the bloodlines of the 8 nations one by one. Dopigua's parrot, Dopigua, was a super hybrid parrot. Although it wasn't weak, it couldn't control its strength very well because it was a hybrid, and it often had to soak in medicinal baths. Thus, Dopigua hadn't brought it to school during this time. According to the information in the Spirit B section of the Cultivation Encyclopedia, land shark's attributes were actually quite balanced, but this land shark gave Loopy Toad a completely different feeling. Its strength and durability were particularly outstanding. Although this was also due to its special constitution. As an opponent, Dog 2 could indeed sense that this land shark was extraordinary. The fact that it could create its own spirit technique was already proof that this land shark's intelligence was very high, far above that of its peers. Loopy Toad frowned. To be honest, it was now a little suspicious whether this land shark was in the same situation as it was. For example, some remnant soul had been integrated into a body. That was because Loopy Toad felt a sense of familiarity when it had fought this land shark. Of course, it hadn't sensed the slightest bit of demon chi from this land shark. It looked like it had to deal with it carefully. Loopy Toad pondered in its heart. At that moment, the arena was a mess. After the land shark's self-created grade 4 sound wave spell swept through, almost all the bricks in the arena had been sent flying. Although the focus of the sound wave was on Loopy Toad, the spell's area of effect was scattered in all directions. With the land shark at the center, everything was collapsing and the ground cracked like a spider web in all directions, looking very sinister. Aluminum small fish gasped for air. At the same time, it was a little surprised. It was full of confidence that its attack was enough to send this weak green-furred dog flying. Its sonic power had been tested. In a situation where the opponent didn't have any defensive measures, it could directly rely on the power of this 4th-tier sonic spell to send a 500 kilograms object flying. However, this green-fur dog actually managed to persevere. Like a nail, it used that emerald green bone to firmly stick to the ground. It was clearly such a thin and small dog, but it actually contained such a huge amount of power. At this moment, Aluminum Small Fish was deep in thought. This green-furred dog's origin was not simple. At least, it was not as easy to deal with as it seemed. If it was just a pure hybrid between an Akita and another spirit dog, it would never be this strong. For a time, both sides sunk into silence after the attack and defense of the Soundwave spell. At number 60 high school, grade 1, class 3 was in high spirits. Most of them could see that this land shark wasn't easy to deal with. Can our Loopy Toad win? Little Peanut was suddenly a little nervous. A lot of people in class thought that their family's dog too would win easily, but never thought that this land shark would actually be so troublesome. It was hard to say what the outcome of the battle would be, since no one knew what this land shark, which could only create its own 4th-tier sonic spell and was full of all kinds of surprises, would do. Super Chin frowned. He felt that this land shark's background definitely wasn't simple. Throughout the entire process, Wong Ling had been silently watching the battle. After seeing the land shark's self-created sonic spell, his expression didn't change in the slightest. Dopiguan nudged Wong Ling next to him with his elbow. Wong Ling, do you think Dog 2 can win? Wong Ling didn't say anything else, and just gave a light before he actually took out a 3-5 scroll from his desk and started to look through the questions for Wong Ling. There had actually been no suspense in this match from the beginning. But at that moment, something changed in the arena again. Aluminum Small Fish's gaze suddenly made the golden-backed gorilla, which had been ignored all along, stand on end. Jinbei wanted to cry, but had no tears to shed. So, after a fruitless battle with that green-furred dog, was the land shark going to start with itself first? However, to everyone's surprise, Aluminum Small Fish actually walked over to Jinbei and looked up at it. You're Jinbei, right? The golden-backed gorilla shrank inside the golden bell shield and didn't dare move and just nodded silently. Aluminum Small Fish smiled evilly. Because the land shark's mouth was bigger, when it grinned, this evil smile looked even more ferocious, and the golden-backed gorilla's hair stood on end. Jinbei looked at Aluminum Small Fish and howled suspiciously. This was Spirit Beast language, which meant, "What do you want?" Aluminum Small Fish's words were astonishing. "How about we work together? Let's get rid of that green-furred dog first." The golden-backed gorilla's eyes lit up. It hadn't expected this irascible land shark to actually come up with this plan, which actually had all sorts of advantages and no disadvantages for it. Originally, it would only be able to take 3rd place, but if it could get rid of this green-furred dog, taking 2nd place would also be wonderful. At the same time, this scene also surprised everyone else. No one had thought that this irascible land shark would actually take the initiative to seek cooperation. Xiafei broke out in a sweat. He had been completely ignored. Why did contract spirit beasts nowadays like to act on their own as long as their masters weren't around? Weiji wasn't very nervous and just chuckled. Brother Dog, it looks like this little fish really wants to get rid of you. Loopy Toad wasn't afraid at all and instead felt very excited. No hurry. Let's see what it wants to do first. What should I do? The golden-backed gorilla gestured to Aluminum Small Fish, still speaking in Spirit Beast language. "Lend me your golden bell shield," said Aluminum Small Fish. The golden-backed gorilla obediently handed over its golden bell shield, completely unaware of what Aluminum Small Fish wanted to do. In the end, in the next second, Aluminum Small Fish, who had taken the magic Golden Bell shield, started to suck in air again. It was clear that it wanted to belch again. But why had Aluminum Small Fish borrowed the Goldenback Gorilla's Golden Bell shield? Everyone was puzzled, no matter how they thought about it. But in the next moment, Aluminum Small Fish's steel tail actually ruthlessly smashed the top of the Golden Bell shield and directly sent it flying. Jinbei wanted to cry, but had no tears when it saw the magic treasure broken. "You, brother dog, watch out." At that moment, Wei Ji suddenly guessed what Aluminum Small Fish was going to do. "Loopy Toad." As soon as Wei Ji said this, sure enough, Aluminum Small Fish had the Goldenback Gorilla put the broken top of the Golden Bell shield on its shoulder and turned it into a simple sound amplification magic artifact. Wei Ji, this is the ultimate version of the floating waves belch. Megaphone. Chapter 573. Loopy Toad frowned slightly at the enhanced soundwave spell. In fact, it was already fully aware of the power of this spell. When the Goldenback Gorilla had lifted the Golden Bell shield from the top of the slope, Loopy Toad had already realized the land shark's true intentions. It knew that Aluminum Small Fish wanted to use the ultimate version of the soundwave spell to send it flying, and Loopy Toad estimated that this big horn was more than 10 times more powerful than the normal version of the floating waves belch. The soundwave spell that the land shark had used before had only been a large-scale group attack. However, after using the Goldenback Gorilla's Golden Bell shield as a megaphone, the originally scattered sound wave spirit power had been condensed for a brief moment. The original power had been increased by several times, or even more than 10 times, to form a powerful single attack. Spirit beasts like the land shark were originally proud creatures with an extremely strong desire to win, but this land shark in front of Dog 2 gave it a completely different feeling. It could be said that Loopy Toad was fully prepared for this bighorn attack without the slightest bit of negligence. This was a rare opportunity for actual combat, and Loopy Toad actually enjoyed it quite a lot. On the other side, Wei Ji also took out his defensive magic treasure, a folding fan, which was a powerful defensive magic treasure. With just a light wave, Wei Ji's folding fan turned into a powerful barrier in front of him. This was used to withstand the impact of the battle between the spirit beasts. Even if Aluminum Small Fish's sound wave attack hadn't really started, Wei Ji could still sense the imminent pressure from his past experience. This was simply too exaggerated. Wei Ji had never thought that the land shark would actually be able to exert such oppressive force. Aluminum Small Fish was just relying on its special physique, eating snacks to make itself excited. It was able to exert strength that was completely inconsistent with its grade. In the next moment, with the power of the ultimate version of the floating waves belch bighorn, the originally invisible sound waves actually seemed to turn into solid ripples, and everyone could actually see each one clearly. It was actually so powerful. A lot of people were shaken in their hearts. To be able to turn invisible sound waves into solid power was enough to prove how powerful the spellcaster was. Under normal circumstances, this kind of power was impossible to achieve. This shot, combined with Loud Muzzle's special power, allowed the land shark to unleash its full power. Because of the Golden Bell shield, the originally large-scale sound wave attack turned into a single-target destructive attack. Most of the power of the sound wave was concentrated on Loopy Toad. Standing next to the land shark, Jinbei, the Goldenback Gorilla, only received a small amount of the aftershock. This huge momentum shocked everyone who was watching the battle. The power of the megaphone was like a nuclear bomb. It shot out a huge energy cannon, like a destructive ray, destroying everything in front of it. The entire capital zone was almost blown away by Aluminum Small Fish's sound wave. Endless rubble flew up, like countless stars floating in the universe. The offensive of this megaphone could be described as devastating, as if everything had been annihilated and turned into flying ash in a short moment. As Loopy Toad turned to ash, boundless astral winds howled fiercely with the tremendous power of 10 million horses, putting Loopy Toad's body to great test. Aluminum Smallfish was quite confident in this attack. It rarely used such a big killer move. However, the strength of this green-furred dog in front of it was beyond its expectations once again. After this powerful sound wave attack, this green-furred dog actually didn't move at all. Aluminum Smallfish grit its teeth. Was it looking down on it? Or had its attack not had the slightest effect at all? The land shark Aluminum Smallfish couldn't believe the scene in front of it at all. What kind of character was this green-furred dog on Earth? While Aluminum Smallfish was feeling endlessly incredulous, it actually noticed that the emerald green dog-beating stick in the green-furred dog's hand had actually changed a little. This proved that its attack just now had indeed been effective. Unfortunately, however, the land shark realized that this emerald green bone stick of unknown origin had actually become even more solid under its ultimate version of the Soundwave spell. Then, an even more astonishing scene happened, because Loopy Toad had actually broken the Bone King in two along with the cracks that had been created by the sound waves. But even so, the Bone King's power still hadn't changed much, which delighted Wei Ji on the battlefield. Wei Ji, brother dog, Loopy Toad, Wei Ji. Just in time, your bone stick has now been broken in two. Hurry up and think of a way to transform. Loopy Toad thought about it carefully. In fact, it had no idea whether the Bone King would still be more powerful after being broken in two. But curiosity drove Dog 2 to make its final judgment. It listened to Wei Ji's instructions and started to fantasize about this broken Bone King turning into what it wanted. After several dozen seconds or so, Wei Ji's eyes suddenly lit up. Brother Dog, Loopy Toad, Wei Ji, hurry up and use the nunchaku. Ha ha ha. Loopy Toad. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Night Chief's investigation was still going on. As the president of Night Chief, Night Ghost Spirit Emperor felt that he had suffered unprecedented shame and humiliation. He was the dignified leader of the number 1 foreign force, but an inexplicable magic treasure had actually smashed off one of his arms. Not only that, even his right-hand man Edmark had been assassinated. This action was undoubtedly a blatant provocation. His severed right arm still hadn't recovered, and the serious injury effect was much stronger than he had imagined. Not only did it inhibit his ability to recover, but it also made Night Ghost Spirit Emperor feel an unprecedented pain in his severed arm. The injuries caused by the unknown object smashing through his arm felt like ants were gnawing at it, constantly eating away at his wound. Any results from the investigation? Night Ghost Spirit Emperor asked his subordinate next to him, reporting to Lord Spirit Emperor. We're still in the investigation stage. The subordinate replied, useless. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor was furious. What information can we find out now? Trembling with fear, Night Chief's subordinate replied, at the moment, the tracking magic treasure shows that it's within Songhai City. We can basically conclude that it wasn't done by venerated immortals. It was probably done deliberately by someone with ulterior motives. Chapter 574. The battle was still going on. Although the Bone King had cracked from the big muzzle just now, it wasn't really damaged, which was one of its freewheeling characteristics. It was precisely because the Bone King had the ability to mold a person's imagination into the weapon they wanted. So to put it bluntly, it was like plasticine. If you poked a hole in plasticine, you just needed to rub it a little more, and it would recover. So when Loopy Toad saw the fresh cracks on the Bone King recover bit by bit, it felt that this characteristic was simply a little heaven-defying. It was the same as having a self-healing attribute. Little Master Ling doesn't have to worry about my magic weapon breaking anymore. On the other side, the golden-backed gorilla and the land shark Aluminum Smallfish had tired expressions on their faces after they used the strengthened big muzzle version of Floating Waves Belch. The big muzzle had a very strong impact and a fierce recoil. The golden-backed gorilla had almost been directly thrown out of the arena by the recoil just now. During this process, apart from casting the Soundwave spell, Aluminum Smallfish also had to use some strength to suppress the golden-backed gorilla and stabilize the cannon. But even with such a fierce consumption of strength, the dog actually hadn't been thrown out of the arena. Jinbei and Aluminum Small Fish were startled at the same time. Was this dog a holdout? Aluminum Small Fish had initially calculated that this dog would be very difficult to deal with in close combat, so she had planned to use a long-range attack to try and throw the other party out of the arena. But she never expected her attacks to fail one after another. Jinbei put down the broken golden bell shield with an unsightly expression on its face. It had lost a magic weapon, but even so, it actually hadn't been able to throw the dog out. Where on earth did this dog come from? Aluminum Small Fish frowned as it tried to think of a countermeasure. It looked at the useless pet trainer behind it with incomparable disdain in its eyes. It was obvious that this green fur dog was already more powerful than this trash pet trainer had imagined. It didn't make sense at all that a hybrid green-furred Akita could have this kind of strength. What do we do now? The golden-backed gorilla's shoulder hurt from the blast just now, and after putting down the golden bell shield, there was a deep dent in its shoulder. It realized that it already couldn't lift its shoulder. The powerful recoil had actually dislocated it. There was a good saying, "Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent. Just be afraid, forget it." Aluminum Small Fish gritted its teeth. It felt that taking the initiative to seek out teammates was already shameful enough. However, the problem was that in a 2-versus-1 situation, they were actually unable to deal with the green-furred dog in front of them. This made Aluminum Small Fish feel humiliated and ashamed. Xiafei couldn't bear to watch this situation any longer. Jinbei and Aluminum Small Fish were consuming too much spirit energy. They should have listened to their pet trainers and used some probing attacks in the beginning. Xiafei wanted to say something, but when he saw Aluminum Small Fish gritting her teeth, he didn't dare to speak. He could imagine that even if he kindly reminded it now, the land shark would definitely roll its eyes and say, "Don't order me," or something like that. "Brother dog, charge. Take advantage of its weakness. Kill him. Use the Bone King to borrow strength." Wei Ji knew that the golden-backed gorilla and the land shark had consumed a lot of their spiritual power, so this was the best time to attack. Compared with Jinbei and Aluminum Small Fish on the other side, Dog 2 was very cooperative with Wei Ji, and this tacit understanding was astonishing. He was clearly just a pet trainer who was taking part in the battle, but his cooperation with this green-furred dog was surprisingly good, as if he was its owner. Loopy Toad was willing to cooperate with Wei Ji on one hand to give him face, and on the other hand to conceal its strength. That was because if it listened to Wei Ji's commands and won, given his SSR-level pet trainer aptitude, most people would definitely give him all the credit. Loopy Toad had originally come to participate in this battle of spirit beasts to test its actual combat level, not to show off. But Loopy Toad indeed had to admit that Wei Ji had a special affinity when it came to commanding battles, which was probably due to his personal charm. An SSR-level pet trainer's personal charm was also very important. Loopy Toad knew that the weasel at Wei Ji's side was the spirit beast that had been with him the longest and was practically inseparable. At that time, the weasel actually had a very serious mental illness, and it was Wei Ji who had opened its heart bit by bit. It was also from then on that Wei Ji began to have a constitution that wasn't afraid of electric shocks. Now, Wei Ji called this using love to generate electricity. After hearing Wei Ji's order, Loopy Toad instantly moved. The Bone King in its hand had already completely recovered, and it actually used it to do a pole vault. Raising its paws, it used the first form plus the second form of the basic dog skills as it poured spirit energy into its dog paws. Buttface pole vaulting into the ground seemed like a meaningless action, but in fact it wasn't. Buttface had used the strength of his forelimbs and the explosive force of his hind limbs to instantly leap into the sky and reach an unprecedented height. This series of actions could be said to have been done in one go. Faint green spirit light lingered around Loopy Toad's dog paw, and as it fell from the sky, it split into countless fist shadows with the sound of explosions. Dog 2's strength was too great, and the acceleration of its fall from the sky also increased its close-range speed by a notch. It was like a sky full of meteors falling to the ground, far from what the land shark and the clumsy goldenback gorilla could compare to. The basic dog skills actually weren't anything fancy, but when combined with the Bone King's pole vault, the sky full of fish shadows falling from the sky suddenly gave people a sense of déjà vu. The moment it landed, Loopy Toad's mind was filled with a carefree feeling, but it was also enlightened. Even if there weren't any fancy, ordinary spirit techniques, as long as it was coordinated with a little movement, it would still have a miraculous effect. Stupid monkey! Let's join hands and block it with all our strength. Aluminum small fish grit its teeth. The goldenback gorilla grunted and crossed its thick arms. Just as it was about to assume a defensive stance, it suddenly felt something push it. The land shark had actually pushed it forward to use it as a shield. Jinbei, aluminum small fish. What are you looking at? You've never seen a beautiful fish before. You block it, I'll transfer some energy to you from behind. Jinbei realized that it had been tricked. What F***king transfer of energy? It wasn't like this was some kind of lucky game. Loopy Toad didn't hold anything back in its attack this time. After practicing with Sheep and Jinka previously, Loopy Toad could already punch at least 200 times per second with just the first and second forms of the basic dog skills. The fish shadows were like streaks of green flaming meteors as they struck the ground. The goldenback gorilla was actually dazed at this scene, and it thought a song it liked very much. You're as beautiful as fireworks, so beautiful, lightly streaking across the empty sky. The moment the goldenback gorilla and aluminum small fish were sent flying by the fierce fish shadows, the goldenback gorilla was actually very calm. Only when it came into direct contact with the impact could it feel the difference in strength. When aluminum small fish felt the impact, it was already cursing in its heart. F***K. This dog is actually so strong. Chapter 575. It was simply too exaggerated. Butt-Face series of dog skills were dazzling, and he won the match in a way that exceeded everyone's expectations. The commentator announced, Aluminum Small Fish and Jinbei have lost the ability to fight. Contestant Dog, 2 wins. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had thought that it would be a tie, but never expected it to be a one-sided victory. At that moment, a lot of people focused their attention on Wei Ji, suddenly feeling that this unknown SSR-level pet trainer was something. He had given a lot of instructions in the fight just now, and he had cooperated very well with this green fur dog. Furthermore, he had analyzed some of the enemy's intentions quite well. But why didn't they have any impression of such a formidable person? Even the commentator was puzzled. Then the commentator began to flip through the information on domestic pet trainers based on Wei Ji's face. There weren't many SSR-level appraisers, so there would definitely be records on the Pet Trainers Guild's official website. Then the commentator saw a photo of Wei Ji and a weasel, and when he saw the weasel, he slapped his face in realization. So it was him. That perennial second. But today, it seemed that he had finally taken back first place. The point was that this wasn't a large-scale competition. In the hall of the Spirit Beast Assessment Center, a white-haired old man in a suit was watching the broadcast. What does Lord President think? A young man asked in a low voice. Not bad. He's a promising talent. It just so happens that our Spirit Beast class is still short of manpower, the old man said. How about we directly send someone to talk to him? That's not appropriate right now. The old man shook his head. A group of people has been pretending to be us before, saying that our Society of Saints is forcibly recruiting students and creating a foul atmosphere. It's better to wait a little longer. First, go check the information on this contestant Dog 2's real owner. I intend to sign him. You're signing him just like that. The young man was blank. Although there weren't many spirit beasts enrolled in the Society of Saints Spirit Beast class, they had all been carefully selected after layers of assessments. This was because after entering the Spirit Beast class, all the contracted spirit beasts would undergo systematic training and enjoy the resources provided directly by the country. They would be able to enjoy unprecedented treatment in the shortest time possible. Not only would their cultivation speed increase, but most importantly, there would also be a merit system. This merit system wasn't limited to the spirit beast class. The entire Society of Saints had it. By carrying out the missions assigned by the Society of Saints, the merit obtained from the missions would be worth it, and the merit could be exchanged for the corresponding cadre position. In theory, as long as one had enough merit points, even a spirit beast could become a district mayor or even a mayor. In the various classes of the Society of Saints, if one's merit points reached the level of class monitor, they would be on equal footing with the mayor of a city. We're not in a hurry to sign the contract. This time, we have to do our homework and show our sincerity. You could draw up a contract first, the old man said slowly through sound transmission. The rest of the conversation was confidential. The young man nodded. Yes, sir. I've already drafted the contract for the Spirit Beast class members. It'll be done soon. The old man replied, No, it's not a member's contract. The youth. The old man, I want to directly sign it as class monitor. The young man sucked in a cold breath. Class monitor? The old man said telepathically. So it's even more important that we communicate well with the dog's owner. The contract can take the form of a transfer contract or a co-ownership contract. We still have a lot of funds, and this dog's owner is probably just an ordinary foundation establishment student at number 60 high school. He definitely won't be able to resist this temptation. And it's not just funds. We can also directly offer resources to this dog's owner, such as transferring him to a key city high school or sending him to university. The young assistant was directly alarmed. Lord President, do you think this is worth it? This dog is indeed very amazing, but we haven't tested it yet. You don't know. The old man shook his head and smiled slightly. Did you see the pet trainer who commanded this dog today? Do you know who he is? The young assistant looked at the screen and felt that he looked a little familiar, but he had no impression of him. The old man said, This person has an extraordinary background. He became an SSR-level pet trainer at such a young age. A lot of people might not have any impression of him, but I have a very deep impression of him. Back then, when our Society of Saints recruited core organization cadres, I personally went to negotiate with this person. I offered generous conditions that even a soul formation cultivator couldn't refuse, but this person still wasn't moved. But later, I realized that it's actually not a bad thing that this person didn't come to our Society of Saints. The young assistant. What do you mean, Lord President? The old man. Because this person is very good at identifying spirit beasts. Any spirit beast that catches his eye definitely won't be simple. Of the 5 spirit beasts we've recruited so far, I've actually followed him and then signed 3 of them. The young assistant. As long as it's a spirit beast that this Mr. Wei Ji fancies, it won't only have excellent aptitude, great talent, and upright values. Furthermore, its heart will definitely be filled with a sense of justice and in line with our core cultivation values. The old man scared. The point is, don't you think this dog is very pleasing to the eye? The young assistant was stupefied and fell silent. He didn't speak for a long time. To be honest, he felt that it was a bit arbitrary to sign a class monitor contract based on this point alone. I know you're definitely not convinced right now, but sometimes you have to believe in superstitions. The president said, Previously, I took a fancy to a university student's spirit dog. It's a very magnetic spirit dog. The young assistant raised an eyebrow. He had heard about this before. Lord President, are you talking about the spirit dog under Zhao Yusin, a graduate student at Lower Gate Cultivation University? Its name is Jijiliang? That's right. That's it. The old man nodded. It's a very powerful spirit dog, a ninja spirit beast. It also has a very strong imitation ability and can imitate the fighting style of other spirit beasts. It used to have a nickname, Copy Dog. The young assistant nodded. In fact, he also had some doubts. Then why didn't you sign it after that? The old man said, I deliberately sent someone to find that student and then arranged for Mr. Wei Ji to meet this dog in private. In the end, I found that Mr. Wei Ji actually had a look of disdain on his face. Later, I sent someone to carefully investigate the dog's owner and the background of this dog, the young assistant, and then the old man. I actually found out that this university student had actually falsified his academic thesis. Not only that, but this female dog under his command had bad values. It had repeatedly insulted our country. After that, this old man didn't sign it and handed in a report. The young assistant sighed. Then it should have been expelled already, right? The old man shook his head. It was just a warning to stay in school. Chapter 576. While the president of the Society of Saints was complaining about this, the young assistant checked the information on his phone in passing. This matter had actually already been exposed online, but it seemed to have been suppressed. Despite all the major media outlets reposting it one after another, the owner of this spirit dog, who had posted insulting remarks about the country on an online platform and who had falsified academic papers, hadn't been expelled, but had instead been given detention at school with a warning. Interestingly, the young assistant also found another piece of news about 36 high school students who hadn't gone to bed in time and had been persuaded to leave school. In the end, after their parents pleaded on their behalf, they were also given detention at school with a warning. The seriousness of these two matters was completely different, but the severity of the punishment was the same. The young assistant felt that when these two matters were strung together, it was full of holes to complain about. It was actually useless to blame this spirit dog at this time. There was a saying before that a spirit sword was like its master, which meant that when the rapport between a spirit sword and its master reached a certain peak, a sword spirit would be born. A sword spirit's personality would often be more similar to its master's. In fact, this wasn't limited to sword spirits. It was the same for artifact spirits bred by other magic treasures and spirit beasts. Dog spirit beasts were loyal to their masters, and in most cases, the master's 3 views and growth environment would also subtly influence their contract spirit beasts. But this matter had already been exposed online, and the severity of the punishment was actually just a warning. The young assistant sighed and said telepathically to the old man, "This dog's owner isn't simple. There's definitely a connection." After I handed in the warning information, someone immediately contacted me and told me not to meddle in this matter. That person's original rank was a little higher than mine. The old man smiled. The young assistant nodded. If it wasn't for the fact that Lord President still hasn't vacated his position as the new president of the Society of Saints, it wouldn't be hard to get rid of this kind of scum. That's right. The old man nodded. But we have to wait for the head of state to announce his new identity. Furthermore, we have to wait for all 6 classes of the Society of Saints, including the Spirit Beast class, to be in place before we make the announcement. The unified statement to the outside world is that the Society of Saints currently doesn't have a president and is directly under the jurisdiction of Huasho Alliance and led by Secretary.com. At that time, we won't need to specially hand in information to get rid of this kind of scum. We just need to put pressure on them. The position of president of the Society of Saints was on the same level as that of the 10 generals. This person insulted the country first. Even if he has a backer behind him, he won't be able to run rampant for long. I won't have to deal with him personally. Naturally, someone won't be able to. After he had been warned by his former boss, he had silently opened a secondary account and left a message under author Wang Situ's Weibo. Everyone in the cultivation circle now knew that this author had a huge fan base. A few days ago, the fight for monthly votes had directly shaken half of Huasho Nation's cultivation circle. The old man smiled and stared at the young assistant in front of him. "I still need you to keep an eye on the current situation, Lil Han. I have a premonition that this green-furred dog is very special. In the past, I've never seen Mr. Wei Ji show such a happy expression towards a spirit beast when I was tailing him." The young man named Hanji nodded and said, "What are you saying, President Fu? Since you have made up your mind, this subordinate will do his best to arrange it." "Master," President Fu of the Society of Saints said, "when you find this person's address, you must bring a gift and pay him a visit in person. Make it clear why you're here, and try to keep a low profile and be gentle. If you can't come to an agreement, don't be too anxious. Also, I buy. Bye. Bye. We weigh society, sue that by gift. Very well, President. Han Jin asked, do you want to prepare a gift bag of snacks? Nowadays, a lot of foundation establishment students seem to like snacks, like spicy strips or crispy noodle snacks. Won't the elixirs we provide be more impressive? Snacks were really too low class. Want to be more tempting to directly use the Super Spirit Elixir? The old man chuckled. This Super Spirit Elixir was a resource that the government personally allocated to the top scorers of various subjects after foundation establishment cultivators entered Golden Core universities. Normal people absolutely wouldn't be able to resist this temptation. Dog 2 had won a landslide victory in the Battle of Spirit Beasts, and number 60 High had also achieved pretty good results in the other events in the district sports meet this time. They had even broken the historical records of key high schools, Reliance High School and Prime Elevation High School, in some of the events. Wang Ling was about to leave after school when he noticed a group of people gathered around Dopey Gua to look at the results of the sports meet. Number 60 High had ranked second overall in the sports meet this time. It was already at the level of a key city high school. We were really lucky this time. Everyone performed exceptionally well, as if they were on steroids. Dopey Gua was also beyond shocked as he looked at the results of the sports meet. I told you that Wang Ling is a mascot. Super Chun sked. Wang Ling was about to leave when Super Chin's sudden words left him with black question marks on his face. Super Chun, did you notice that Wang Ling broke records in all the events he participated in? It's as if he's manipulating things behind the scenes. Now it turns out that he's a mascot. Wang Ling, because of the Battle of Spirit Beasts in the afternoon, the rest of the school schedule had been canceled, and there was a break in the afternoon. Thus, school ended especially early today. When Wang Ling got home, Dog 2 had sent him a text saying that Wei Ji had asked it to stay for dinner. The old man, on the other hand, had been taken out by Mother Wang. Apparently, he wasn't going to buy groceries, but to check out tour itineraries and book tickets at a travel agency. Supposedly, the old man suddenly wanted to go on a trip. But Wang Ling felt that there was something fishy about this because there was still a food duel between the old man and Jiang Bai's father, the head of Kitchen Knife Sect from regular class 2. The old man had been preparing for this for a long time, and there was no way he would give up on the idea of going on a trip just like that. Furthermore, Father Wang wasn't typing today, nor was he smoking a cigar dejectedly on the sofa. Instead, he was rummaging through the drawers and cabinets in the basement, looking for something. When Father Wang had rummaged through the basement the last time, he had found the pile of love letters that Grandfather Wang had written to his first love, Teacher Pan. Wang Ling thought about today's date. It was July 20th on Thursday, in the 13th week of the semester. Was today an important day? Ling Ling, you're back. Come here. Suddenly, Father Wang shouted from the basement. Wang Ling teleported to Father Wang's side and saw Father Wang take out an old box from the storage room. He then took out a box the size of a shoe box from the box, and then a black box from the box. Finally, he took out a small note from the black box. Father Wang looked at Wang Ling. I had your grandfather send your mom away just now. Wang Ling. He could already tell. Father Wang, today isn't our wedding anniversary. Instead, it's the first day I met your mom. This note is a song I wrote before. It's called The Starry Sky's Language of Love. I just need to compose and arrange the music. Ling Ling, can you do me a favor? Wang Ling. Chapter 577. Father Wang had written these lyrics the first time he had met Mother Wang. Actually, Wang Ling had never really understood their love history. However, the relationship between an old married couple had always been pretty good, and it was actually very normal for them to stumble. But Wang Ling felt that the number of times Father and Mother Wang had quarreled since he was young could be counted on his fingers. Wang Ling had wondered whether today was their wedding anniversary, but when he looked at the time, it didn't seem right. Now that he heard Father Wang say this, Wang Ling was suddenly enlightened. He could even remember the first day they met. It seemed that it had been love at first sight back then. Lyrics of The Starry Sky's Language of Love Walking alone in this world, does it seem a little lonely watching the Big Dipper in the cool night breeze? How I wish I had you with me. Our memories are in the night sky. Remember when I interpreted the language of the stars with you? What mystery is there in liking? What mystery is there in liking throwing everything away? It seems there is only confusion. When I was young, I watched the meteors fill the sky, always thinking of who could accompany me walking through the forest with you to the precipice, watching the starry sky shine on my hometown in the wind. Only after many years do I understand why the starry sky is colored, because we're together, want to take you to compose the language of love in ink, holding my breath as I wander the galaxy. Wang Ling glanced at the lyrics Father Wang had written and marveled at his writing in his heart. When all was said and done, Father Wang specialized in his craft. Writing songs required talent, but Wang Ling's heavenly ear could connect to other world lines. Last time, he had helped Tang Yuning, whom he had met in late-night dining hall, write Old Boys. But in many cases, working in the literary and artistic field depended on luck and talent. Tang Yuning had become popular for a while with that song, but he had later grown tired of it. Wang Ling had also heard from late-night dining hall's boss, Boss Tan, that after Tang Yuning had become popular, Tang Yuning hadn't gone to late-night dining hall even once. So sometimes, people really couldn't forget their roots. When Tang Yuning had been starving, Boss Tan had helped him a lot, not only by feeding him, but also providing him with a venue to perform. But human nature was in the end too hard to fathom. There were many good people in the world, but there were always a few who were ungrateful. Looking at Father Wang's poem, Wang Ling was lost in thought. It would of course be very easy to get a song from another world, but the problem was that Father Wang had written the lyrics himself, so it was an original song. Wang Ling needed to find a suitable melody from another world. It was much more complicated than plagiarizing a song for Tang Yuning back then. As long as you can give me the composition today. Father Wang rubbed his hands together with a pleading expression on his face. I want to find a chance to hum it to your mother later. It's just a simple brainwashing. There's no need to hurry with the arrangement. Just do it before our wedding anniversary. Wang Ling frowned. He actually wanted to help, but he hadn't finished his homework yet. Father Wang knew Wang Ling's character all too well. In this guy's eyes, apart from crispy noodle snacks, homework was his #1 priority. He would definitely help, but it was just a matter of sequence. He hoped that Wang Ling would settle on the composition as soon as possible. The sooner, the better. After thinking about it, Father Wang finally decided to pay the price. Wang Ling didn't care about ordinary crispy noodle snacks at all. Now that he had all kinds of annual cards and gold cards, he could taste the latest crispy noodle snack flavor every week. Furthermore, the crispy noodle snack flagship store on Spirit Creek Road would send him a big gift pack during the holidays. Thus, Father Wang had already spent a lot of money on custom-made crispy noodle snacks, especially for Wang Ling's taste. Father Wang whispered in Wang Ling's ear about the crispy noodle snack flavor. In the end, Wang Ling's eyes instantly widened, because this was a flavor he couldn't refuse. After confirming the flavor, Father Wang held up 3 fingers. 3 packets. Wang Ling frowned. Although 3 packets was very tempting, it wasn't enough for him to eat to his heart's content. Father Wang took a deep breath. 5 packets? Wang Ling's eyes widened, but he still didn't agree. Father Wang grit his teeth. 8 packets. This was already all he had in stock. Deal. Wang Ling nodded. Father Wang heaved a huge sigh of relief. The price of each custom-made crispy noodle snack was equivalent to 3 days' worth of royalties. It looked like he would have to order more later. If he still had to ask Wang Ling for help in the future, he would have to prepare at least 10 packets in stock. Helping Father Wang compose music actually wasn't that complicated for Wang Ling. The main thing was that it was troublesome, because he had to find the right melody from each world line according to the lyrics, which took more time than doing homework. Father Wang's lyrics were a kind of spit song with a refreshing tone. What was a spit song? It was the kind that didn't burn the brain, and the melody was especially brainwashing. One of the biggest characteristics of this kind of song was that it was very contagious, and anyone could hum a few lines to it. But it wouldn't work in a music competition, because it wouldn't be able to show off one's singing skills at all. However, a lot of the popular songs on the market now were spit songs, such as Buddhist Girl and I Am Willing, both of which were spit songs. Wang Ling pricked up his ears, and the heavenly ear ability scanned countless world lines as if it was receiving radio waves. In the end, he found a singer called Old is Old, who sang a song whose melody just happened to connect with Father Wang's The Starry Skies language of love. Number 60 High School had music classes, and Wang Ling himself could play the guitar, so he immediately wrote down a score based on the melody and lyrics, and then sent it to Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal had sung that magically altered version of Take You on a Journey before, and Wang Ling had felt that Grenade-Throwing had a talent for singing. When Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal saw the score and the lyrics, he was stunned, and hurriedly wrote back to Wang Ling, Brother Ling, who wrote these lyrics? Wang Ling typed back. Senior Wang wrote them. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal replied almost at the same time. Damn, this is simply the work of a genius. Senior Wang's song, this melody, these lyrics, shocking the world and making the gods weep. My scalp goes numb, my thighs tremble, I get goosebumps all over. Listening to it makes me want to fall in love. Wang Ling, could this bootlicking be any more obvious? But to be honest, the melody of the song was pretty good. At the very least, it was very brainwashing, and it was indeed very cheerful. When do you want this song? Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal asked. Wang Ling's answer was concise. Right away. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal? Good. I'll sing it right away. About 5 minutes later, Wang Ling sent the composition file to Father Wang. Father Wang was startled when he heard Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal's voice, and he hurriedly turned around to look for Wang Ling. Is this Little Lay's song? Wang Ling nodded. Father Wang was shocked. Damn, this singing was too good. This voice, this singing, shocking the world and making the gods weep. My scalp goes numb. Wang Ling. Chapter 578. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal finished singing the language of the Starry Skies language of love. He had composed the entire song as he played the piano. His voice was very clear and beautiful, and Little Silver was dazed when he heard it and couldn't help coming over to watch. Although Little Silver had heard that Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal could sing pretty well, he hadn't expected him to actually sing so well. His voice was really sweet. He was clearly thousands of years old, but his voice still sounded like that of an 18-year-old boy experiencing his first awakening of love. There were a lot of spells and elixirs in the cultivation world to beautify one's voice, but the effects of these spells and elixirs were the same as Nanhan Country's plastic surgery, and they were all the same. Currently, the most popular singers in the entertainment industry relied on their unique voices to become popular. Everyone's voice was different, and they had to have their own characteristics to become popular. Grenade-Throwing, you sing pretty well. Little Silver leaned against the wall and folded his arms as he listened happily. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal closed the lid of the piano and sighed. I actually wanted to debut before, but I gave up. Little Silver didn't understand. Why? Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. Because I'm too strong. I have to give young people a chance. Little Silver, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal. If I debut, Fong Jeluan and Zhou, when Sean won't be a problem, Little Silver. Did you write this song? Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal shook his head. Senior Wang wrote it for his wife. Brother Ling composed the music, and I sang a short demo. So it was written by Master's Master. Little Silver's eyes lit up. Recalling the melody just now, he suddenly looked a little envious. How romantic! It reminded me of a poem. I've been studying Huaxia's ancient culture recently. It's really broad and profound. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal raised his eyebrows. Tell me about it. Little Silver blurted out. 100 years of cultivation crossed the same boat. Hearing this, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal was about to praise Little Silver for his slight improvement in understanding of modern human culture. In the end, Little Silver paused before continuing. 1,000 years of cultivation, Astro Boy, grenade-throwing senior immortal. That night, Loopy Toad had dinner at Wei Ji's house. When it followed Wei Ji in, the security guards at the ground floor of the family apartment looked at it with smiles on their faces, brimming with enthusiasm. This was a dog that had been personally chosen by the marshal, so no one dared to show a sour face. Actually, Wei Ji felt that Loopy Toad had a special affinity. At first glance, the color of this dog's fur was a little strange, but the more he looked at it, the more he liked it. Passing by the apartment block, Loopy Toad saw an old mother carrying a basket. "Little Wei, did you bring your dog friend here to play again?" "Yes, Aunt Zhao." Wei Ji greeted the old auntie. Loopy Toad raised its head to look at this Auntie Zhao and was immediately on guard because it felt that this person was very strong. As a spirit beast, Loopy Toad could almost immediately sense this aura rather than aura. It felt that this old Auntie's identity was not simple. But the other party didn't pay much attention to Loopy Toad and instead smiled at it as if it were an old friend. Loopy Toad guessed that the news about Marshal Jiang giving it special privileges at the door last time had most likely spread in the apartment. There were a lot of old aunties and uncles in the family apartment, and when they had nothing to do, they liked to discuss this kind of daily gossip. Who was Marshal Jiang? Everyone in the family apartment knew that he was Battle's Saint, one of the 10 founding generals. Every word he said had weight behind it. Loopy Toad was silent. It didn't know whether this was a good or bad thing. In any case, it felt that after following Little Master Ling for a long time, it would sometimes think that it was better to keep a low profile. In the end, it was this Aunt Zhao who smiled at it, then paused to stroke the soft fur on Loopy Toad's head. "Your dog friend looks a little nervous." A very fresh spirit energy spread out from this Aunt Zhao's palm, and Loopy Toad actually felt very comfortable. Damn, so comfortable. As expected, this old auntie wasn't simple. Looking at Aunt Zhao, Loopy Toad wanted to say something, but didn't know how to say it. "Don't worry, Little Wei's friend has a good character and a good beast." Aunt Zhao said, "Everyone in our apartment watched Little Wei grow up. Old Jiang greeted you at the door last time, so you can be more casual in the apartment from now on. It's no big deal. So don't be too nervous. We should be the ones who should be nervous." "Wei Ji, what's wrong, Aunt Zhao?" "Aunt Zhao, how old are you? Have you ever brought a girlfriend to the apartment in so many years? We now seriously suspect." "Wei Ji, Auntie, I don't have such strong tastes, Aunt Zhao." "That's good, Loopy Toad. Where are you going, Aunt Zhao?" asked Wei Ji. I just got a call from old Jiang of the neighborhood committee. He said that foreign forces have invaded the border, and he wants me to hurry over to deal with it. He's busy right now and can't leave." Aunt Zhao covered her mouth and smiled. "I'll be back soon." Wei Ji nodded as if this was normal. Be careful, Aunt Zhao. Don't worry, I'm not using this basket to buy groceries. Do you know the flying guillotine? This basket is an improved version of the flying guillotine. It's the kind that can be thrown out to directly harvest people's heads. But in order to weaken the enemy's guard, I modified it to look like this, said Aunt Zhao. Loopy Toad felt that this Aunt Zhao was talking about something very scary with a calm expression on her face. Because she was in a hurry to deal with this important matter, Aunt Zhao didn't drag Wei Ji out to chat for too long this time. This could already be considered being merciful. Sometimes, Wei Ji was afraid of running into some overly enthusiastic old aunties and uncles in the apartment. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to go back for at least half an hour. After this, Aunt Zhao said goodbye to Wei Ji. Loopy Toad watched her walk to the entrance of the apartment before her figure flickered and she directly disappeared. Who is this auntie? Loopy Toad was very curious about this mysterious old auntie. Aunt Zhao was Uncle Zhang's secretary back then, and has always worked for him. Her Taoist name is Holy Lotus Tao Monarch, Wei Ji replied. Loopy Toad thought about this name but couldn't think of it. It was probably a Taoist name from a long time ago. Since these old seniors had abdicated and retired, they no longer called each other by Taoist names. Over time, some legendary Taoist names have been lost in the memories of the younger generation, and it was probably only the older generation who knew about them. Looking at Loopy Toad's clueless expression, Wei Ji suddenly mentioned a name. Do you know Enrich? Loopy Toad nodded. I do. Of course it knew this person. She was the only female cultivator in Grenade throwing Senior Immortals chat group. Furthermore, when Little Master Ling was 10 years old, she had once launched a round of attacks on him with Facial Cleanser. As Wei Ji pressed the elevator button, he said lightly, "This Aunt Zhao is Enrich Shifu. What a small world." Chapter 579. When it arrived at Wei Ji's house again, Loopy Toad already didn't feel as unfamiliar as it had at the beginning. This was because Wei Ji, this invisible nouveau riche, was connected to 4 households, and he had set up all kinds of ecological environments inside, which made the entire house look very complicated. If Wei Ji hadn't led the way at the beginning, Loopy Toad really wouldn't have been able to get its bearings. But this time, Loopy Toad was already completely familiar with the place. When it entered, Loopy Toad saw the pushing large butterfly fly over and perch on Wei Ji's shoulder, which he couldn't help sinking a little. After not seeing it for a while, this pushing large butterfly had grown heavier again. It had obviously been raised very fat by Wei Ji. The pushing large butterfly was a kind of economical and practical spirit beast. Its attributes were relatively balanced, and its biggest characteristics were its loyalty and practicality. The sleeping powder and tranquilizer powder on the pushing large butterfly in particular were very useful when it was training in the wild, and it was very suitable for pet trainers to take out for training. Of course, the highest grade a pushing large butterfly could reach wouldn't be too high, and was at most 3rd class. But it was a different story if it could become a butterfly emperor. The pushing large butterfly in Wei Ji's hand clearly had the bloodline of a butterfly emperor. Otherwise, Wei Ji wouldn't have taken a liking to it so easily. This was a common spirit beast that pet trainers liked to use in the early and middle stages. But Wei Ji was an SSR-level pet trainer, and he was raising a spirit beast that could be called a novice level, so Loopy Toad felt that this pushing large butterfly definitely wasn't simple. And sure enough, it was just as Loopy Toad had expected. After the pushing large butterfly rested on his shoulder, Wei Ji looked at the stamen of the tyrant spirit flower that the pushing large butterfly had rested on previously. This tyrant spirit flower had been specially cultivated by Wei Ji indoors. The nectar that the tyrant spirit flower secreted every day was the pushing large butterfly's food. Loopy Toad moved closer to take a look, and found that there was actually some cotton candy-like silk mesh on the flower's petals. This was the pushing large butterfly's nest. As expected, it has the bloodline of a butterfly emperor. Loopy Toad said, among pushing large butterflies, only a butterfly emperor could do this kind of thing. Of course, this is a spirit beast that I signed. Wei Ji looked at the new nest on the flower petal and was rather delighted. Among the adult pushing large butterflies, only the pushing large butterflies with the bloodline of the butterfly sovereign have the ability to build nests. When a nest is 90% built, it will attract many young pushing large butterflies to follow it. If they can attract the pushing large butterfly that also has the butterfly sovereign's bloodline to complete the last 10% of the nest, the 2 pushing large butterflies will mate. At this point, Wei Ji sighed and used his finger to gently touch the pushing large butterfly's brightly colored wings on his shoulder. However, there are too few pushing large butterflies with the bloodline of a butterfly sovereign. Furthermore, a butterfly sovereign is a national-level protected spirit beast. It's actually very rare now. A national-level protected spirit beast. Then, the one you're carrying, S-rank pet trainers, and above have the right to raise national 2nd class and 3rd class protected spirit beasts. SSR rank, no restrictions, Wei Ji replied quickly. Loopy Toad nodded. I see. I went to many places to find this pushing large butterfly with the butterfly sovereign's bloodline. Wei Ji seemed to have recalled many things. How did you find it? Loopy Toad stared at the pushing large butterfly curiously. It had come into contact with this pushing large butterfly many times, and it had seen that it was quite close to Wei Ji, but it didn't know what the story between the two was. Wei Ji, actually, wasn't that difficult to sign the contract, it was still very young back then. It was just that it wasn't easy to find out. It was its clan's third prince. It didn't want to inherit the throne, so it left with me. Loopy Toad was stunned. There was this kind of operation? Weiji specially treated Loopy Toad to a big steak from his family's Shinfu beef. This beef was very expensive, and most pet trainers definitely didn't have it at home. When Weiji cut up the beef and fried it, Loopy Toad suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Loopy Toad, this beef is pretty expensive. Weiji, it's fine. In any case, it was a scam from the vice president's family. Just yesterday, he lost a bet with me again. He lost his family's luxurious Fenrir dinner to me. It just so happens that I can't eat it by myself, so I'll fry it and eat it together. It'll also give you some nutrition. Loopy Toad, Weiji. Actually, apart from the Bone King, there have probably been dozens of other times. The vice president especially likes to gamble with me, but he always loses something to me. Loopy Toad suddenly felt that this vice president of the Pet Trainers Guild, crying old immortal, was a little miserable. So it turned out that gambling really wasn't a good thing. It wasn't just that a small gamble was good for the mood, but a big one was bad for the body. Whether it was a small gamble or a big one, it was still a gamble. If you won, you wanted to win again, and if you lost, you wanted to recoup your losses. This thing was forever a bottomless pit. No one in the Wong family had this habit. Father and Mother Wong never bet with others, and didn't even buy lottery tickets or stocks. Father Wong was never interested in these kinds of opportunistic ways to make money. Loopy Toad also remembered that Father Wong had specially set 3 rules with Little Master Ling. Since a young age, Father Wong had told Little Master Ling that he wasn't allowed to use his ability to earn ill-gotten gains in any form. Making money down to earth was a skill. As he fried the steak, Weiji couldn't help laughing. I reckon that the vice president's Fenrir will howl again tonight. Both of them are of royal blood, but our family's big clawing butterfly saves me time and money. Loopy Toad was blank when I heard this. In fact, in theory, it was also a spirit beast with royal blood. It should be said that it had a royal soul. In the past, whenever Loopy Toad thought of its former identity as a demon king, it couldn't help feeling disappointed and sad. But now it felt more at ease, because tomorrow it would go and put an end to everything with its own claws. Although it might not be able to be its former king in the future, Loopy Toad actually enjoyed its current life. Wong Ling looked like a lonely person, but Loopy Toad realized that when it was with him, it didn't feel lonely at all. Furthermore, it had met a lot of friends through Wong Ling. Weiji looked at Loopy Toad and wondered what this brother dog was thinking about. Although he had never met Wong Ling before, he had always been very curious about him. What kind of person was he to be able to raise such a magical dog? That Fenrir is also of royal blood. Isn't that a natural inheritance? When it came to the topic of royal blood, Loopy Toad actually had a lot of questions in its heart. It was very curious about the similarities and differences in bloodline inheritance between Eastern spirit beasts, demon beasts, and Western magic beasts. Most bloodlines are naturally inherited. The Fenrir in the vice president's house is a purebred. Of course, there are exceptions. Weiji said, for example, the legendary demon saint of the demon world. Demon saint is probably the supreme leader of the demon world and is one level higher than demon gods. But no one knows how demon saint is inherited. Do you know the holy pillar of the demon world? Chapter 580. Weiji was dazed. I remember, it's a landmark. Weiji remembered that he had only vaguely read about it in some book, because ever since the appearance of the gate between worlds, the relationship between the demon world and the human cultivation world had always been a hot topic. Over the years, the Pet Trainers Guild had been researching the differences between demon beasts, spirit beasts, and magic beasts. The previous topic had always been the difference between spirit beasts and demonic beasts. However, both spirit beasts and demonic beasts belong to the same species on Earth, and they both use the spiritual chi of heaven and earth as their source of power. Although they had different habits, there was not much of a difference in their nature. So in fact, the difference between demon beasts and spirit beasts have been a huge field of study in recent years. It wasn't just him. The guild's vice president, president, and other SSR-level pet trainers were doing everything possible to research it. When a gate between worlds had appeared in the human world, cultivators had captured a lot of demon beasts as samples. In fact, the country had invested a lot of research in the last few years to fund the Pet Trainers Guild to compile analytical teaching materials on demon beasts. In terms of species alone, there were more demon beasts than spirit beasts and magic beasts combined. Their numbers were terrifying, and there were many tribes. According to the information that human cultivators had on the demon world, there were over 100 demon territories in the demon world, each of which was ruled by a demon god. Each territory was divided into several dozen different tribes, and each tribe's chief was a demon king. Subdivided even further, the variety of species could be drawn into a jaw-dropping tree diagram. But even with such a variety of species, the Pet Trainers Guild had still discovered a very important landmark over the years, and that was the Holy Pillar of the demon world. This was combined with the information obtained from the maps drawn by all the desperate map merchants who had explored the demon realm. Every map merchant went to a different place, but there were always similarities. When all the similarities were combined, they discovered the existence of the Holy Pillar of the demon world. Brother Dog knows about this Holy Pillar? Wei Ji was amazed. He felt that Dog 2's knowledge was broader than he had imagined. And the key point was that the Holy Pillar hadn't actually been announced to the public yet. Currently, there wasn't a single popular science book about the gate between worlds in the Library of Heavenly Path outside that had any information about the Holy Pillar. Yes, that's what I heard. Loopy Toad pretended to be calm as it nodded. Of course it knew about the Holy Pillar, since it was a demon beast from that corner to begin with. Actually, all demon kings and above actually knew about the Holy Pillar's origin. Brother Dog is really knowledgeable. Wei Ji had known from the start that Loopy Toad's background wasn't simple. Furthermore, it was already against common sense for it to be able to speak despite its low grade, so he didn't take it to heart that Loopy Toad knew about the existence of the Holy Pillar. From the very beginning, Wei Ji felt that his brother Dog was a dog that had seen the world, a dog that was fresh and refined, and a dog that was free from vulgar tastes. We only found out about this Holy Pillar not long ago. Our analysis shows that this is an important landmark in the demon realm, and it has a lot to do with Demon Saint. The closer it is to the demon domain near the sacred pillar, the stronger it is, Wei Ji said. More or less. Loopy Toad nodded. Actually, this research was basically on point, because the Holy Pillar was originally the center of the demon realm and was surrounded by hundreds of territories. As for why the demon domains closer to the Holy Pillar were stronger, the reason was actually very simple. Those demon domains were more or less affected by Demon Saint's aura and became stronger under the radiation of Demon Saint's demon energy. This was already no longer a secret in the demon realm. How far have you come in your research? Loopy Toad couldn't help asking. We're currently studying the relationship between the Holy Pillar and Demon Saint, Wei Ji replied. Our initial suspicion is that the Holy Pillar and Demon Saint's inheritance have a lot to do with each other. Although the succession of the Demon Saint seems to be hereditary, and has already been announced that the current Demon Saint's title is a merman called the Second Generation Merman, but we generally still believe that there are other ways of succession for the Demon Saint. Other ways of inheritance? Loopy Toad was blank. Even Loopy Toad, a native of the demon world, didn't know what Wei Ji was talking about. In the demon world, the existence of Demon Saint had always been a mystery. There were hundreds of demon gods in the demon world, but only a few at the very top had actually seen Demon Saint. Even if they had, none of the demon gods could accurately describe what Demon Saint looked like. Many demon beasts knew that Demon Saint had always existed, including Loopy Toad, but they had never known how Demon Saint was inherited. Below demon gods, including demon kings, they had only heard of Demon Saint, and they only knew that demon gods were personally appointed by Demon Saint from among the many demon kings. However, no one knew the specific criteria for being conferred the title of demon god. Most of the demon beasts did not know what a Demon Saint looked like, where he was, or what the criteria for appointing a demon god was, or whether they would send small red packets to the group of demon gods during festivals, or whether they would give a pension to the demon gods after they had inherited the throne for 650 years. As Loopy Toad and Weiji ate the steak, its eyes lit up as it chewed the beef. It was actually very delicious. Loopy Toad exclaimed, "You're a human wife." Weiji replied calmly, "I'm a beast wife." Loopy Toad, "You've used up a lot of energy today, eat more. This beef is a great tonic." Weiji forked a piece of meat and put it in his mouth. "By the way, I haven't asked Brother Dog, where did you get this fist technique from?" "A friend gave it to me. He doesn't need it," said Loopy Toad. "This fist technique is pretty powerful. If you cultivate it to the highest level, it'll definitely be very promising. But when I saw you use it today, I felt that something was missing and it looked a little stiff. Your friend probably didn't give you the full set, right?" said Weiji. Loopy Toad replied, "It's the full set, but my friend might have improved it, I see." Weiji put down his fork, and his expression suddenly became very serious. Actually, there are times when an improved technique might not be suitable for everyone. It's best to cultivate according to the original version of the technique. Otherwise, if your spirit energy circulates in the wrong meridian, it's very easy to leave behind sequelae. Loopy Toad was startled. "It can't be that scary, right?" "You can't say for sure," Weiji smiled. "But now it looks like you're pretty used to this technique." Loopy Toad, there's nothing uncomfortable about it." Weiji, "But we can't rule out the possibility that the sequelae haven't appeared yet." Chapter 581. After leaving Weiji's house, Loopy Toad had been thinking about the basic dog skills it had used in the fight earlier. Loopy Toad didn't feel that there was anything wrong with cultivating this fist technique. It could even be said that cultivating this fist technique had opened up many of its originally blocked meridians, and the compatibility between its soul and body had risen to a whole new level. However, Weiji's words still made Loopy Toad feel a little uneasy. This was because Weiji's instincts had always been very accurate, especially when it came to spirit beasts. The main point was that Loopy Toad was a demon beast to begin with. Although it was cultivating according to a spirit beast technique, what if something really went wrong? What should it do? Little Master Ling had personally improved the Demon King Heart Sutra, so Loopy Toad felt very reassured. But the problem was that Little Silver had memorized this basic dog skills from Dog Saint's depository of Buddhist texts back then. Furthermore, Little Silver himself had said that he had condensed this spirit technique in his own way. It was more refined than the original version, but for some reason, Loopy Toad felt that it wasn't reliable. On the way home, Loopy Toad couldn't help sending Little Silver a message. "Was the basic dog skills you gave me last time complete?" Little Silver's face was full of black question marks when he saw the message. It was complete. Loopy Toad, no sequelae? Little Silver, it would have been fine if the after effects hadn't been mentioned, but at the mention of them, Little Silver immediately recalled that Dog Saint had in fact written a note on the title page of the manual about cultivating the basic dog skills. But at the time, this note was only for the dog clan, so Little Silver hadn't kept in mind. He only remembered that if he didn't follow the note when cultivating the technique, it could lead to some after effects, seeing Little Silver's ellipsis reply. Loopy Toad was so shocked that its fur stood on end. "There really is." Little Silver patted his face and replied a little aggrievedly, "There really is. It's a note for the Hound Clan. Because it's only for the Hound Clan, I didn't really remember it. I only remembered it after I passed the cultivation method to you. But because it's been too long, I wanted to wait until I remembered it before telling you." Loopy Toad was stunned. F***K, you tricked me. You demon Silver. Little Silver, do you feel unwell now? Loopy Toad, "No, Little Silver." "Then what are you panicking about? Maybe there aren't any sequelae at all, or maybe they aren't obvious, and it's not that serious." Loopy Toad was blank. Were the common sequelae, whether it was humans, beasts, or any other living beings, they all had a natural fear of the unknown. Why was it popular to bring wolfberries out these days? Wasn't it to nip trouble in the bud? Little Silver pretended to think back, but didn't reply for several minutes. How would he know? Actually, it was mainly because he really didn't remember it carefully at that time. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to not remember it. For some reason, Little Silver had a bad feeling in his heart and felt that he had indeed conned this Dog Boppy. Although Dog Boppy was usually very naughty, Little Silver still had an excellent overall impression of Loopy Toad. Full score of 5 stars, if not 5 stars, at least 4 stars. This was a very loyal dog, but given the current situation, Little Silver really didn't know how to comfort Dog 2. After a long time, Little Silver replied, "The usual sequelae are nothing more than physical fatigue, backache, night sweats, and kidney deficiency. Loopy Toad. Kidney deficiency? Little Silver. At worst, I'll just take some 6-flavor Dihuang pills. Loopy Toad. Little Silver. Don't worry, it shouldn't be too serious. Don't we still have Master? With Master here, why are you panicking? If your kidneys really are weak, you can get Master to stroke them for you. Loopy Toad. Little Silver. I'm talking about stroking your fur. Don't get the wrong idea. Loopy Toad. Speaking up to this point, Little Silver couldn't help sighing. When can I be stroked by Master? I heard that Master stroked you many times, and his technique is very comfortable. I wonder how it compares with grenade throwing. Loopy Toad. You pervert. When it reached the front of the house, Loopy Toad did its best to put the sequelae to the back of its mind. It didn't want Little Master Ling to become suspicious if it looked uneasy, because it was about to do something big. Furthermore, Loopy Toad wanted to wrap things up as soon as possible and come back as a dog pretending that nothing had happened. The deadline for its prophetic dream was approaching, and it would set off for its clan at noon tonight. When it entered the house, Loopy Toad was actually a little nervous because it had been doing the whole thing behind Wang Ling's back, which made it feel a little guilty. Now, Loopy Toad just wanted to hurry up and end everything so that it could return to Little Master Ling's side as soon as possible. Taking a deep breath, Loopy Toad pushed open the door. It was 9 o'clock when it got home, and Mother Wang was already upstairs. It was time for her to put on her face mask, and Father Wang was in the study writing his draft under Lai Mingming's watchful eye. Wang Ling, on the other hand, was actually already lying in bed. This was beyond Loopy Toad's expectations. Why was Little Master Ling resting so early today? Was he too tired from today's sports meet? Little Master Ling was very different from other people when he took part in the sports meet. Other people were tired because of the exercise, but Little Master Ling was tired because he had to control his primordial chi during the exercise. This operation consumed a lot more energy than simple exercise. Thinking this, Loopy Toad suddenly felt that its explanation was simply flawless. Loopy Toad walked over to the bed and called out in a very low voice, "Woof!" Wang Ling, who was pretending to be asleep. There really wasn't any response. Loopy Toad was overjoyed. The heavens were really on its side. Wang Ling, who was pretending to be asleep. Loopy Toad went to the bathroom and closed the door. Recalling the method Wang Ling had used to locate Immortal Jinyuan's drought star, it started to operate Lord Ma. The toilet lid on Lord Ma opened on its own, and its ancient voice came out just like before, echoing faintly. "I am serving." But before it could finish, Loopy Toad retorted in a very low voice, "You're courting death. Little Master Ling is sleeping one." Lord Ma obediently shut its mouth. After Loopy Toad silently recited the coordinates, Lord Ma, just like before, gave off a burst of light that enveloped itself. Then, with a whoosh, Loopy Toad directly turned into a beam of light and disappeared on the spot. The moment Loopy Toad disappeared, Wang Ling pushed open the door and entered. "Did you send him away?" Wang Ling stared at Lord Ma and asked telepathically. Lord Ma, "Yes, Lord Supreme Wang Ling. Did you add the buff?" Wang Ling asked again. Lord Ma, "Yes, Lord Supreme Wang Ling." This was the power that Wang Ling had stored in Lord Ma's body. As long as Loopy Toad activated Lord Ma, Wang Ling's golden light shield would directly cover Dog 2. After confirming this, Wang Ling felt a lot more at ease. With a golden light shield, Wang Ling felt that he didn't have to worry too much about Loopy Toad's safety. Besides, this dog too was very astute. It also had Immortal Genuine's main immortal seal on it. If something really happened, Chapter 582. The demon world in the gate between worlds was divided into 3 zones and 108 territories, divided according to strength into 96 outer territories, 8 middle territories, and 4 inner territories. According to overall strength, the sky-swallowing Toad clan was situated in one of the 4 inner territories. The disputes between the 4 inner territories were far more complicated than those between the middle and outer territories. At the same time, the 4 great Yao gods of the 4 inner regions were also the strongest Yao gods. The Scorpion King of the East, the Ox Sovereign of the West, the Ghost Emperor of the South, and the Turtle Devil of the North were known as the 4 illusionary gods of the war. The Sky-Swallowing Toad clan lived in the territory of Scorpion King of the East, and the conflict this time revolved around Scorpion King of the East and the other 3 demon gods of the other territories. On Dragon Tooth Mountain, an elder of the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan whose hair and beard were already grizzled stood at the mouth of a cliff and gazed deeply at the border in the distance. This elder was the current acting leader of the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan, Elder Wenhe. Dragon Tooth Mountain was the border crossing between the eastern and western territories. There was a border embassy there, which had originally been used to mediate conflicts between the various territories. However, in this elder's eyes, the embassy's function was completely non-existent. Elder One, everything is ready. Everyone in the clan, young and old, is ready to evacuate. At that moment, a ray of light fell, and a young man with an oily face landed behind Elder One. Elder One nodded and looked up at the sky. If I sacrifice myself to ensure the safety of my clan, it will all be worth it. Speaking up to this point, Elder One turned to look at the young man behind him. When you, after I die, everything in the clan will be handed over to you. You'll have to work harder. No, I'm going with grandfather. The young man raised his head. The 3 demon gods of the other territories' proposal to negotiate this time might be a turning point, grandfather. A turning point? It can't be a turning point. This is just the 3 demon gods' excuse. I can't watch my grandson throw away his life. Elder One sighed. In the end, you're still too young to understand the situation. No matter how we prove our innocence, it's no use when the other 3 territories forcefully accuse us like this. Just who did our clan offend? When you clench your fists tightly, looking very angry. Our Sky-Swallowing Toad clan has always scrupulously abided by our duties since the founding of the clan. Several years ago, the 10th generation leader was pushed by the Demon Kings to charge and break through enemy lines and died a violent death. What right do the demon gods of the other 3 territories have to taint our innocence? Are you trying to tarnish my race by hiding a magical artifact of mass destruction for Scorpion King? In fact, no matter what one does, this kind of malicious act of tarnishing someone's reputation out of thin air would end up with nothing more than a sieve. You're still young and have a long way to go, but I'm already old. The sacrifice of my clan is merely a chess piece. This time, the other 3 territories sent people over to negotiate. They said that they want to thoroughly investigate whether our race has that weapon of mass destruction. If it is proven that we do not have it, the 3 territories will cancel the war against the Eastern Territory. Elder One pinched his beard, and his eyes seemed to have seen through everything. But it's impossible to cancel the war from the beginning to the end. These 3 territories are already prepared to join forces to suppress our Eastern Territory. There's no way Scorpion King will allow the other 3 territories to enter our Eastern Territory to conduct a search during this negotiation. At this point, the young man already completely understood Scorpion King was stuck between a rock and a hard place. The existence of a magic artifact of mass destruction in the Eastern Territory was a nonsensical rumor to begin with. But the demon gods of the other 3 territories were still unrelenting in their determination to conduct a search and had repeatedly joined forces to denounce and criticize it. They declared to the other territories that they would never let this matter rest. and unless the Eastern Territory was allowed to conduct a search, they would join forces to retaliate. What kind of shameless hoodlum behavior was this? If Scorpion King shows weakness, this will only make the other territories doubt the overall strength of our Eastern Territory. Right now, the 8 territories of the Central Territory are coveting the position of the 4 inner territories. Once Scorpion King shows weakness, it will only temporarily stop the wound. Elderwin had seen through this matter from the very beginning. At that time, the 8 regions of the Central Region will definitely use this matter to make a big fuss. They'll kick our Eastern Region out of the 4 regions and fight for the position of the new Eastern Region. The young man was silent. The war between the demon territories had always brought only pain and suffering. The ones who really suffered were the innocent demon beasts in the process. Most demon beasts enjoyed a peaceful life, but the competition between the demon territories was such a cruel thing. Scorpion King of the Eastern Territory had always been a strong advocate. This time, the other 3 territories had joined forces to fight against the Eastern Territory, which in fact had something to do with Scorpion King's own character, but this was not a reason to frame others or create something out of nothing. Wenyu was silent as he quietly wiped away his tears. He did not cry out, but the sound of him wiping away his tears was very clear, and even sounded a little harsh in Elderwin's ears. He did not know if he would be able to return after leaving this time. Wenyu was still young, but he was the best candidate among the younger generation to shoulder the heavy responsibility of the clan. Wenyu, you don't have to be too sad. Grandpa has lived to this age, and it's already enough. Elderwin did not look back, his gaze fixed in the direction of the border from beginning to end. The young man lowered his eyes, feeling incomparably sad. Grandpa, is there really no other way? Looking at the current situation, there really isn't. Elderwin shook his head. I've already held a prayer meeting. Unless we can awaken great ancestor Jiang, there's really little hope for this. Not too long ago, a shining demon god had appeared in the sky-swallowing Toad clan, and that was great ancestor Jiang, whose Taoist name was Venerable Demon Jiang Lu. But speaking up to this point, Elderwin suddenly said, in fact, things may not be as bad as we think. Not long ago, I also had a prophetic dream. In the dream, under the illumination of a green light, our clan moved towards prosperity and prosperity. But so far, I still don't know what that green light represents. However, these comforting words didn't improve Wenyu's mood. The Toad clan's prophetic dream. Although it was a dream that could come true, there was also an element of probability to the occurrence of a dream. Moreover, Wenyu had never heard his grandfather mention anything about the prophetic dream before, so he treated it as comforting words. But in fact, Elderwin had indeed dreamed of it. At that moment, grandfather and grandson stood at the mouth of Dragon Tooth Mountain's cliff. A cool breeze blew through Elderwin's navy blue Taoist robe. It was almost time. Elderwin was ready to leave, and it wasn't until the moment before he turned around to look at his grandson. Wenyu, raise your head. A man-toad, a man of character. The young man did his best to restrain his emotions and held his head high. We are a clan that has been illuminated by the demon god's glory. Even if we are lonely now, you must remember, for the sake of our ancestors, for the sake of the clan, you can't lower your head at any time. Elderwin stared in the direction of the peace consulate and gritted his teeth. If I don't come back this time, I won't come back. Chapter 583. When Elderwin rushed to the peace consulate, he could already feel the smell of gunpowder. The atmosphere in the peace consulate wasn't peaceful at all. Instead, it was a little tense. Although he had long expected that this kind of negotiation would have no results, Elderwin still sighed in his heart and slowly walked in. In the peace consulate, the envoys from the southern, western, and northern territories had been waiting for a long time. The 3 envoys sent this time were direct ambassadors of the demon gods of the south, north, and west. Taoist Horseface under Venerable Ox of the west, Taoist Witch Demon under Ghost Emperor of the south, and Taoist Bronze Turtle under Turtle Devil of the north. This time, the 3 territories colluded to exclude the East Territory, which was something that even Scorpion King did not expect, and this negotiation could be said to be insincere. If they really wanted to resolve this matter peacefully, they shouldn't have just sent emissaries to negotiate. At the very least, the 3 territories should have sent a demon god as a representative. However, the ones sitting here were merely the emissaries of the 3 territories. In the conference hall of the Peace Consulate, there was a round table. The southern, western, and northern emissaries sat around the round table with their fingers crossed and their heads in deep thought. Elderwin was silent and did not say anything. He found a place to sit down. After a minute or two of silence, Taoist Horseface said, "The envoys of our 3 territories have come to the consulate today for peace talks. Why didn't Scorpion King of the East personally receive us?" Elderwin silently rolled his eyes in his heart. These were questions that he already knew the answer to. The 3 of them already knew that the Eastern region demon god Scorpion Emperor would not appear, so they purposely made things difficult for him. Scorpion King is busy playing ranked at home today. I'm afraid he won't have time to come over. Elderwin cupped his fists. The envoys from the 3 territories. Elderwin casually pulled out a seat and sat down. His face showed a fearless expression, completely ready to die bravely. Taoist Horseface was still staring at him relentlessly. "Who allowed you to sit down?" As a result, Elderwin did not listen to him at all and even crossed his legs. Since he was going to die today, what was there to be afraid of? Taoist Horseface's face darkened. "Are you not giving me face? We are all emissaries, and the Peace Consulate was established in the spirit of fair negotiations. But whether it's fair or not, don't the 3 of you know?" Elderwin was not afraid at all. He simply said this directly. "Today, I have come with the determination to die, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Is this the Scorpion King's intention?" Taoist Witch Demon smiled. "Do you know that you're fighting against 3 territories? Your puny, sky-swallowing toad clan dares to stir up a conflict in the demon region. Even if any descendants of your clan survive in the future, they'll be nothing more than street rats wherever they go. Ever since the rumor that our clan hid a magic weapon of mass destruction for King Scorpion, all kinds of rumors have been spreading in the southern, western, and northern regions. When a lie is spread 1,000 times, it will become true even if it is false. This matter was originally made up, and everyone in the Eastern Domain knows about it. If the 3 envoys represent the 3 domains and insist on putting the blame on me, then I can't afford to bear the blame of the 3 domains." Elderwin waved his hand. Taoist Horseface's face darkened, and his voice was incomparably gloomy. "Since you're already prepared to die, we won't say anything more. If you have the guts, try walking out of this consulate." "What? You don't dare make a move on me in this consulate?" Elderwin smiled lightly. He was well aware that the Peace Consulate had been set up under Demon Saint's orders, and its original purpose was to mediate the conflict between the demon regions. Rumor had it that Demon Saint had set up a restriction in the Peace Consulate, and anyone who dared make a move in the consulate would immediately be punished by Demon Saint's restriction. This rumor had always existed, but no one had ever dared to put it into practice. Thus, Elderwin felt that he could bet that these 3 people absolutely wouldn't dare make a move on him, at least in the Peace Consulate. In fact, Elderwin's guess was indeed proven. Because they were overly fearful of Demon Saint's restriction, the faces of Taoist Horseface, Taoist Witch Demon, and Taoist Bronze Turtle from the southern, western, and northern regions instantly darkened. Taoist Horseface, you clearly know that Demon Saint's restriction is in this consulate. How can we make a move so easily?" Elderwin couldn't help laughing. "I clearly know that I'll be throwing my life away if I go out. So why should I?" Taoist Horseface, Taoist Witch Demon, and Taoist Bronze Turtle. Just looking at the expressions of these 3 people, Elderwin's heart was already completely at ease. Although it was just a rumor that Demon Saint's restriction was in the Peace Consulate, this rumor had already spread a long time ago. However, no one had ever died under this restriction, because no one dared make a move. They were afraid that Demon Saint's restriction would really activate. Thus, Elderwin wasn't in the mood to verify whether this restriction really existed. He had just wanted to take a gamble from start. Now that he had confirmed that these 3 people wouldn't dare, make a move on him. Elderwin was simply overjoyed. He stared at Taoist Horseface. "Hit me." Then he straightaway did a standing long jump in front of Taoist Horseface. "You can't do it." The envoys from the 3 territories. Elderwin, curse at me. You can't open your mouth. The envoys from the 3 territories. The corner of Taoist Horseface's mouth twitched. After thinking for a long time, he decided to take a step back in order to advance. Our 3 territories all have manners. It's impossible for us to make a move on the envoys. Since Scorpion King isn't here today, why don't we discuss this another day when he's free? According to their original plan, they hadn't planned to kill Elderwin to begin with, but to detain and arrest him in the name of privately possessing a magic weapon of mass destruction. But even if they were going to arrest him, they would still have to resort to witchcraft. The problem was, who would dare make a move in the peace consulate? I've already seen through the 3 territories' ability to frame others. Elderwin didn't believe their nonsense at all. From the moment he entered the room, their eyes had already said it all. Taoist Horseface couldn't help asking, "Then what do you want to do? Don't tell me you still want to live here?" "Ha!" Elderwin snapped his fingers. "You're right." The envoys from the 3 territories. Elderwin sat down cross-legged and took out a brocade pouch from which he then took out his pots, bowls, ladles, and basins. There was also a glass bottle, and this glass bottle was filled with insect eggs. Elderwin, this bottle contains the large meat flies produced by my clan. There are 100,000 male eggs and 100,000 female eggs, and some of them are already about to hatch. This way, we won't have to worry about food supplies. Furthermore, I'm also old and can't eat much. As long as I have this bottle, I can live here until I die of old age. The envoys from the 3 territories, holding the glass bottle, Elderwin smiled. Who do you think can survive better than my clan in the 3 territories? Chapter 584. In the peace consulate, Elderwin's expression was unperturbed. Since he was sure that these 3 people wouldn't dare do anything to him, it was very stable. It didn't matter how naughty he was next. At that moment, Taoist Horseface hated himself to death with regret. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have arranged to meet in the peace consulate. It would have been better to find a special place for negotiations. At that moment, the envoys from the 3 territories looked at each other in dismay, their hearts racing as they questioned whether this so-called demon saint restriction really existed. Since ancient times, no one had dared to take this step, so there was no way to confirm the authenticity of demon saint's restriction. But the problem was that, even if they weren't sure, they wouldn't dare cross this line. Taoist Horseface couldn't take it anymore. When he don't go too far. The peace consulate is for us to negotiate, but you actually dare to live here as your own home? You, why, you're simply shameless. Elderwin was stunned. From the moment he had entered the room, the 3 of them had been conspiring against him, attempting to do something indescribable like binding and dripping wax to a 1,000-year-old toad, which was full of hope and yearning for a better tomorrow in broad daylight. Now, they were actually accusing him of being shameless. This was a move that shocked the heavens and made the gods weep. Elderwin, if you can't wait, you can leave first. In any case, I'll be staying in the peace consulate. According to the convention, there's nothing wrong with this. The peace consulate is meant to uphold justice, mediate conflicts, and provide shelter for demons in trouble. The envoys from the 3 territories were speechless. But at that moment, Taoist Bronze Turtle suddenly thought of something. He stared at Elderwin with a sinister smile. Did you only bring the eggs? There's no incubation potion, right? If you want to hatch them, you'll need a special incubation demon potion. Miscalculation. Elderwin patted his head. The incubation demon potion was a very important part of incubating large flesh flies. After all, he was getting on in years. There were times when things really weren't so comprehensive. Taoist Horseface laughed. Ha ha! Are you stupid? Without the incubation potion, these eggs are useless to you. We could just wait here with you. If there were these insect eggs, Elderwin's endurance could increase infinitely. The big meat flies hatch very quickly and only need the supply of demonic energy to grow. For the Toad clan, this was an important source of food. Not only could it replenish their own demonic energy, but it also had very rich nutrition. Elderwin brought so many insect eggs with him. If he could use his demonic aura here to help the big meat flies hatch and grow as a source of endurance, then in theory, it would be like a perpetual motion machine. It could cycle endlessly. Taoist, which Demon couldn't help but laugh. Elderwin, you're really muddle-headed. You actually didn't bring something as important as the incubation demon water. Why don't you go back to the clan to get it? This was unvarnished ridicule. However, Elderwin's expression was calmer than the three had imagined. He knew all too well what it meant once he got out. These three people couldn't wait for him to walk out of the embassy and attack him. It's nothing. I really didn't bring any incubating demon water. But since the three envoys are willing to keep me company, then so be it. Elderwin waved his hand lightly, and then took out his phone the next second. I'll order takeout and have it delivered. The envoys of the three territories. Really, didn't he just forget something? It wasn't a big deal. Elsewhere, in Sprout Village, where the sky-swallowing Toad clan had originally lived, Dog 2 successfully landed in a golden light that fell from the sky. Buttface looked at the faint golden light on his green fur and was stunned for a moment. Wasn't this little Master Ling's golden light shield? How could it have this effect on itself? Could it be that after using Lord Ma to teleport, the golden light shield would automatically strengthen itself? Loopy Toad was a little puzzled. It hadn't told little Master Ling about coming to the demon world, and it felt that it had hidden it very well. But if this golden light shield had really been specially arranged by little Master Ling, thinking this, Loopy Toad's heart couldn't help tightening, and it suddenly felt warm. Sometimes Dog 2 couldn't help thinking that it was really too happy to recognize Wong Ling as its master, whatever. In this situation, Loopy Toad would just take it as a side effect of using Lord Ma's teleportation. Having the golden light shield was better than nothing. At its current realm, although it had the support of the power of Sword Dao, if it unleashed its full power, it would barely be below the itinerant immortal realm. It wouldn't be as strong as an itinerant immortal, but it was still a lot stronger than an ordinary demon king. Even so, the demon world was still dangerous, and Dog 2 felt very at ease with this golden light shield. Loopy Toad looked up in the direction of the sky-swallowing Toad clan Sprout Village, but at that moment, there wasn't a single toad in the entire village, not even half a shadow. Where did they all go? Loopy Toad was even more perplexed. But at that moment, Loopy Toad's spiritual senses shook as it suddenly sensed an aura approaching the back of its head. Loopy Toad easily tilted its head to avoid it, and saw a young man with an oily face standing behind it. This was Winyu. Loopy Toad was able to determine the young man's identity based on his aura alone. It hadn't expected that in the blink of an eye, the little toad that had been with Elderwin back then would actually have already cultivated to take human form and grow so big. Winyu frowned as he stared at the green-furred dog standing at the entrance to the village. That piercing aura just now had just been a probing attack. But this green-furred dog's reaction had still shaken Loopy Toad, because the other party had really dodged it too easily, as if it hadn't taken Loopy Toad's sneak attack seriously at all, and had already sensed Loopy Toad's aura earlier on. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that this green-furred dog didn't have the slightest trace of demon chi on it. What it exuded was clearly pure spirit chi. This was a spirit beast from outside the demon world. Who are you? Winyu's eyes suddenly became a little vigilant as he released his aura in an attempt to suppress it. However, Dog 2 just silently walked over to the young man, completely unafraid of the latter's aura. It just sighed in its heart. This little guy from back then actually had this kind of strength now. In some sense, Loopy Toad felt that Winyu was actually more talented than it had been back then, and it was actually a little gratified. Because Loopy Toad had the golden light shield to begin with, Winyu's aura didn't have the slightest effect at all. When Loopy Toad approached the young man step by step, Winyu's heart almost immediately went on alert. Something told him that this green-furred dog was very dangerous. However, Loopy Toad merely raised its head and stared at him, but it was this gaze that made When You daze for a moment. Where are the others in the village? The moment Loopy Toad opened its mouth, When You was immediately stupefied, because this was the voice of the 10th generation leader. When You's eyes almost immediately reddened. I'm not dead yet, child. Chapter 585. When You stared at the scene in front of him in disbelief. He couldn't believe it at all. The voice of the 10th generation emperor was actually reverberating in his ears. It was so real that it lingered in his ears and kept on echoing. When You had never expected, back then, the 10th generation leader who had been tricked by the Demon Kings and pushed out of the gate between worlds to charge and break through the enemy lines, and who had then died, would actually reappear in front of him like this. 10th generation, is that really you? The young man felt that his legs could no longer support him and had already turned to jelly. Although the 10th generation leader's appearance and aura had completely changed, this voice, yes, it was the 10th generation leader without a doubt. In When You's childhood impression, the 10th generation leader's voice had always been dignified and peaceful, giving people a very peaceful feeling. Yes, my child, I'm back. I didn't die. Instead, I lived on in this way. When Loopy Toad was completely in front of the young man, he could no longer support himself as he knelt on the ground and started to cry bitterly. Although Loopy Toad didn't know what on earth had happened in the sky-swallowing Toad Clan Sprout Village, from the perspective of its prophetic dream, Loopy Toad had already guessed that something big had definitely happened in the village. As the backbone of the younger generation, When You was clearly struggling to hold on. Thus, the moment he saw Loopy Toad, When You already couldn't suppress his emotions and started sobbing. Loopy Toad put its paw on the young man's shoulder. It's been hard on you when I wasn't around. It had actually been a very long time since Dog 2 had spoken in this kind of leadership tone ever since it had started following Little Masterling. For one thing, it wasn't used to it, and for another, life in the human cultivation city had made Dog 2 forget the days when it had been a king. But now that it had returned, in order to completely sever all this, and also to fulfill its final responsibility as a king, Dog 2 had already thought it through and decided to play the role of king. Of course, this would also be the last time. Loopy Toad quietly waited for the young man to rein in his emotions. After a few minutes or so, when it saw that When You had gradually calmed down, Loopy Toad opened its mouth slowly. After I disappeared, did a new king take office? No, When You wiped away his tears. Grandfather, he actually always believed that the 10th generation leader wasn't dead, and everyone has been waiting for him to come back. So it was like that. Loopy Toad lowered its head in contemplation. This was exactly what it had seen and deduced in its prophecy dream. Loopy Toad stretched out a paw and pressed it to When You's forehead. Don't move, relax. I want to know what on earth happened in the village. This was a simple memory extraction spell that required the cooperation of the person whose memory was being perceived. Loopy Toad knew that something big had happened in the village, but When You wouldn't be able to explain it in just a few words. Instead of that, it would be more convenient for Loopy Toad to directly search through the memories. After Loopy Toad's memories of it of 2, it was turn of Dog U of one of everything of what had of it have had was that. Of was all was. Dog, it's a one of the of his of. It was fortunate that it hadn't fully inherited the power of the Sword Tao. If it could fully absorb the power of the Sword Tao, even if it hadn't reached the level of a first-grade spirit beast, Buttface felt that it would be able to fight a demon god. Now that Elder One was in danger and was probably being held captive in the Peace Consulate, Loopy Toad felt that it had to rush over immediately. I'm going to save Elder One now. He is the hero who founded our clan. I will definitely protect him. 10th generation leader, what are you going to do? Hee. Whoever dares come over, I'll just hang them up and beat them up. Loopy Toad laughed, sounding very confident and ruthless. There were just 3 insignificant envoys. Dog 2 didn't care about them at all. Before this matter is resolved, please protect the rest of the clan. Loopy Toad said as it looked at the young man. Don't worry, 10th generation leader. The young man nodded. And when you, please keep my return a secret. Don't mention it to anyone, including your grandfather. Do you understand? Loopy Toad said, when you didn't understand. Why? I'm no longer a demon king. Loopy Toad turned around and looked at its village. It then stared at Wen Yu and said, my current Taoist name is Immortal too. Wen Yu, elsewhere in the Peace Consulate, the little demon from Demon Takeout very quickly delivered the incubation demon water according to Elder Wen's online order. When it arrived at the entrance of the Peace Consulate, the little demon was shocked. This place was too grand. As a little demon, it would have never been able to set foot here in its entire life. At the entrance of the consulate, the little demon asked weakly, is this Mr. Wen's delivery? Elder Wen was sitting in the consulate, and when he heard the little demon speak, he immediately replied happily, yes, I ordered it. Coming directly. The little demon's heart trembled as it carried the incubation demon water that Elder Wen had ordered. Holy shit, it actually had a chance to go in? This was the Peace Consulate. The little demon trembled as it entered, and in the next second, it was so scared that it almost peed its pants, because in the Peace Consulate, the envoys from the other 3 territories besides Elder Wen were staring at it with sinister expressions on their faces, as if they wanted to eat it up. The little demon couldn't help trembling all over. Mr. Wen, your delivery. Don't be nervous. There's Demon Saints restriction in the Peace Consulate. They might be a little crazy, but they won't do anything to you. Elder Wen smiled. The envoys from the other 3 territories. So that's how it is. Hearing that, the little demon heaved a huge sigh of relief, then glared at the envoys from the other 3 territories a little angrily. Look at that. Do you look like peace envoys with that expression? In any case, you're officials from the 3 territories of the demon world, and each of you is fiercer than the last. Be careful, or I'll file a complaint against you. The envoys from the other 3 territories. After saying that, the little demon snorted, slammed the door, and left. By then, the envoys from the other 3 territories had already been provoked to the max. Taoist Horseface was so angry that he was trembling all over. When he don't go too far. If you're capable, let's go out and fight one-on-one. I swear on my demon status that Taoist, which demon and Taoist bronze turtle won't make a move during our duel. But just as Taoist Horseface finished speaking, an indescribable green light appeared outside the window of the Peace Consulate. Elder Wen, the envoys from the other 3 territories. What was going on? It was at that moment. All of a sudden, there was a deafening bang. A streak of spirit light directly broke through the window and entered the consulate. He directly slapped Taoist Horseface in the face so hard that his face became crooked and several of his teeth fell out. Everyone turned pale with shock as they stared at this scene in front of them, because it had come from a green-furred dog. Chapter 586. Dog 2's attack had been so fast that no one could react at all. From the appearance of that strange green light on the horizon to Dog 2's flying kick breaking through the window, the whole process had taken less than a second. Everyone in the Peace Consulate was startled by this scene, because no one had expected such an unforeseen turn of events at this time. Buttface's kick was very powerful, because it was under the effect of his anger. Even though he didn't use the power of the Way of the Sword in this flying kick, Buttface had already used 100% of his strength. In addition, there was the effect of force is reciprocal. Under such a fierce attack, the golden light around Buttface's body reflected the power of the fierce blow back several times, making this flying kick even more ferocious. Caught off guard, Taoist Horseface was directly confused by this kick, and he was completely muddle-headed. The Peace Consulate was built with special materials, but this green fur dog that had come out of nowhere had actually been able to break through the window and kick Taoist Horseface in the face. Furthermore, it had even injured him so badly. This was enough to prove how powerful this dog was. This force directly sent Taoist Horseface flying like a scarecrow, and he directly smashed through several walls of the Peace Consulate before crashing into the last one. Taoist Horseface's figure appeared on the wall, and there were spiderweb-like cracks all around it. On the side, Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle turned pale with fright and hurried over to check on Taoist Horseface's injuries, only to turn pale with fright. It had only been one kick, but Taoist Horseface had actually suffered internal injuries. Taoist Horseface spat out a mouthful of purple blood, and with the help of Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle, he stood up against the wall. His legs were trembling, not because he couldn't stand up from the heavy blow just now, but because the moment he had collided with Loopy Toad's leg, that overwhelming pressure had directly touched his soul, causing it to tremble uncontrollably. What on earth was this green fur dog? It was really too terrifying. What on earth is going on? Taoist Horseface trembled as he got to his feet, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. That blow just now had been nothing more than a kick, but it had actually shaken his Jade Mansion. When Taoist Horseface composed himself and saw the green fur dog in front of Elderwin, he flew into a rage almost instantly. How dare you, demon dog? How can the Peace Consulate allow you to do as you please? The next moment, Taoist Horseface got into a stance and tried to burst forth with his demon energy, but he was stopped by Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle on the side. Lord Horseface, don't. The Peace Consulate has a demon sage restriction. It was a pity that Taoist Horseface was extremely furious at the moment and only wanted to get back at him. That bold demon dog's attack just now was full of power, but even so, it did not trigger the Demon Saint's restriction. This is enough to prove that the Demon Saint's restriction does not exist. This was just a pretense. We've all been fooled. After saying that, Taoist Horseface ignored their advice and directly broke free from Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle's arms. The next moment, he released his demon energy as he exerted his strength to the extreme. It was boundlessly terrifying as he combined several demon techniques at the same time with a formidable energy, and he unceremoniously stretched out his palm to slap Dog 2 and Elderwin behind him. Be careful. This palm is very strong. Elderwin turned pale with fright. He had no idea where this dog had come from, but there was something inexplicably familiar about it. So weak. However, Loopy Toad didn't care about this palm at all. Given that its golden light shield was still active, it even felt that it didn't need to do anything special to block it. It could completely block it with its golden light shield. It was just a mere territory emissary whose strength was at most at the level of a demon king. But Little Master Ling's golden light shield could completely withstand a blow from a venerated immortal. So when Taoist Horseface attacked, Loopy Toad had a very contemptuous expression on its face, because it was well aware that this palm would ultimately reap what it had sown. But Taoist Horseface was halfway toward him in less than half a breath's time. At that moment, the other two territory emissaries, Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle, as well as Loopy Toad and Elderwin, suddenly looked up at the sky. Taoist Horseface also stopped his attack as if he had realized something, and his expression changed drastically. An indescribably powerful aura spread from the direction of the holy pillar in the center of the demon world, and it was as if a pair of incorporeal eyes had opened in that moment in the highest heavens of the demon world. This aura was so powerful that Elderwin and the other three territory emissaries present all fell to their knees at that moment. Only Dog 2, who was protected by the golden light shield, wasn't affected in the slightest. But even so, Loopy Toad could still sense the fierceness of this aura. It couldn't be wrong. This was Demon Saint's aura. Even demon gods could only kneel in front of Demon Saint, to say nothing of the emissaries here. In a split second, the three territory emissaries and Elderwin were shaken down by this powerful force and felt how insignificant they were. They were like a swarm of ants in the ocean. Insignificant beyond words. This powerful pressure lasted for several seconds, and then Taoist Witch Demon, Taoist Bronze Turtle, and Elderwin felt their bodies loosen up, and they all got to their feet one after another. Demon Saint's aura was released from their bodies, but there was still one more person lying on the ground in the Peace Consulate. It was none other than Taoist Horseface, who had been the first to use his demon magic in the Peace Consulate. At that moment, Taoist Horseface was filled with regret. A grand territory's emissary, an existence even more noble than a demon king, was actually lying on the ground, trembling like a ghost. The fear of death caused snot and tears to gush out of Taoist Horseface's eyes. This was a horrifying and helpless truth, because the rumored restriction that Demon Saint had set up in the Peace Consulate actually existed. No one had ever dared to cross the line before, but in the long history of the demon world, Taoist Horseface had become the first to eat crabs. Loopy Toad looked up at the sky. Although this pressure from Demon Saint didn't affect it, it still felt Demon Saint's aura loosen on its body. This was a little unexpected for Dog 2. It never thought that Demon Saint would actually be so businesslike. So at that moment in the Peace Consulate, Taoist Horseface was the only one who was suffering. Like a squashed dead fish, he lay on the ground without the slightest bit of self-respect. The enormous pressure had already deformed his face and body, but Demon Saint's power of punishment continued to increase. Taoist Horseface let out a pained roar. "I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Why? This demon dog isn't affected by the restriction. Because I'm a spirit beast." Dog 2 gave Taoist Horseface a wise look. "Are you an idiot?" The three territory emissaries. Chapter 587. As soon as Loopy Toad said this, the envoys from the three territories, including Elder One on the side, were stupefied. Spirit beast, they had actually overlooked this point. It was clearly a dog with such a strange fur color, as if it had been poisoned, but it was actually a spirit beast. The envoys from the three territories found it a little hard to believe, but after Taoist, which Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle used their senses to sense it, they couldn't help being greatly shaken. This was because the purity of this dog's spirit energy was simply frighteningly high. In fact, a lot of soul formation cultivators had broken into the demon world over the years, and their strength was on par with that of a demon king. But the precision of their spirit energy wasn't as frightening as this dog's. What was even more frightening was that Loopy Toad was wrapped in a layer of protective golden light. Then the question was, where did this protective golden light come from? Was it the dog's own protective golden light? This was the power of a sage body. Where on earth did this dog come from? Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle were scared, but they very quickly realized that this wasn't the crux of the problem. It was the demon god restriction that was about to fall. No one had ever seen what the demon god restriction looked like. Taoist Horseface had been able to speak earlier, but in these few seconds, he couldn't even open his mouth, and his entire face was deformed. Although Demon Saint had withdrawn the pressure on everyone else and was only punishing those who had broken the rules, Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle could still feel the powerful force of order in the air. Boundless spiritual pressure swept the area as if it wanted to sweep away everything. Demon Saint is really angry. Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle couldn't help trembling. They couldn't help looking at Taoist Horseface on the ground, whose face was about to twist into a portrait of Picasso, and their hearts trembled with fear. They could actually see that Taoist Horseface was pleading for help, and there was despair in his eyes. "Lord Demon Saint, please calm down." Fellow Horseface didn't intentionally violate the Peace Consulate's rules. He doesn't deserve to die. Taoist Witch Demon's brain worked very quickly as he prayed in an attempt to plead for mercy from Demon Saint. "That's right, it's all this foreign dog's fault. Demon Saint, please be enlightened." Taoist Bronze Turtle chimed in. Immediately, Demon Saint's ethereal voice reverberated in the void. No one knew where it came from, but it lingered in their ears. "Those who disobey shall die." Taoist Witch Demon trembled. He endured the intense fear and continued to plead. "Is there any other way to replace punishment?" "Yes." The Demon Saint's voice sounded again from all directions. "You too, die for him." As soon as he said that, Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle immediately took a step back and bowed to the void at the same time. Lord Demon Saint, please execute Horseface immediately. Taoist Horseface. As soon as he said that, an invisible force of order directly fell. Sprawled on the ground, Taoist Horseface had already been completely deformed. His entire body contorted to the extreme, and in the end he directly died, turning into a pile of demon sand on the spot. Demon sand was a substance that could only be formed after a demon beast's corpse was cremated, and it was very similar to bone ash. Who could have imagined that in the face of Demon Saint's formidable restrictive power, a territory envoy whose strength was comparable to a demon king's wouldn't even have a corpse left behind and directly turned into a pile of demon sand? Everyone in the peace consulate who saw this scene, including Loopy Toad, was incomparably horrified, because no one had ever seen what a real Demon Saint restriction looked like before. Now everyone knew what it was like. This was a power that couldn't be resisted at all. Whether it was Taoist Witch Demon or Taoist Bronze Turtle, neither of them had expected things to turn out this way. They didn't know whether to be shocked or rejoice. This Demon Saint's restriction was too powerful, but it hadn't fallen on them. If they had also disobeyed Demon Saint's will, they would definitely have ended up the same way. But what frightened them the most was Demon Saint's decisiveness and cold-bloodedness. This was the strength of the current demon world's absolute ruler, and no one's will could be refuted under such a powerful restriction, let alone territory envoys like them. Even a demon god might not be able to survive. Taoist Horseface had died too unjustly and too miserably. Loopy Toad gazed at the pile of demon sand on the ground and sighed. Actually, a demon territory civil servant like Taoist Horseface might not necessarily end up well even if he worked for a lifetime. Actually, dying like this wasn't too bad. At the very least, his name would remain in the history of the demon world. Perhaps in a month or two, Taoist Horseface's portrait would be hung in the history textbooks of the demon world. The contents of the textbooks. Taoist Horseface was the first in the history of the demon world to confirm the existence of Demon Saint restriction in the peace consulate, and one of the great demon territory civil servants who put it into practice. Taoist Bronze Turtle. Taoist Witch Demon. How about we drop the matter today? Both of you should go back first and take Taoist Horseface's demon sand with you. It'll be good to collect his corpse first before coming back. The demon sand is still warm now. It won't be good if it gets cold later. Elderwin's kind words made Loopy Toad sweat inwardly. Elderwin, he was still as venomous and merciless as ever. Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle were very angry. Of course, they couldn't let this matter drop. They had lost a general on their side. They had actually been very confident in their victory in a 3-on-1 situation earlier. But now there was a green-furred dog who had somehow colluded with Elderwin. Plus, Taoist Horseface had been killed by Demon Saint's restriction. So the current situation was a lot more complicated. And the point was that they could still vaguely feel the pressure from Demon Saint. Maybe Demon Saint was watching them. Since the restriction did exist, it was impossible to make a move inside the peace consulate. But at that moment, Taoist Bronze Turtle suddenly thought of an idea. Perhaps they could use Demon Saint to get rid of this green-furred dog first. At this thought, he suddenly looked up at the sky and pleaded with Demon Saint. Lord Demon Saint, are you still there? Elderwin, he of the Easter Territory's sky-swallowing Toad clan, is actually colluding with a spirit beast. We came here upholding justice and peace, and don't want to do it ourselves. Lord Demon Saint, please get rid of this foreign spirit dog. The corners of Loopy Toad's and Elderwin's lips twitched at the same time when they heard this. We came here upholding justice and peace. How could this guy have the face to say that? After Taoist Bronze Turtle said this, Demon Saint's voice rang out. Deal with your own private matters. About 2 minutes later, Demon Saint's voice rang out again, and it was concise and to the point. None of my business. Chapter 588. About 10 minutes earlier, in his bedroom, Wang Ling looked at the time. It had been almost half an hour since Loopy Toad had returned to the demon world, and he didn't know if Dog 2's journey had gone smoothly. Although Loopy Toad had already been protected by the Golden Light Shield, Wang Ling still felt a little uneasy. There were too many unknowns in the demon world, especially after he had learned about Demon Saint in old antiques history class. He had a bad feeling about this all along. Thinking this, Wang Ling directly went over to Lord Ma and hooked his finger to lift the toilet lid. Following Wang Ling's instructions telepathically, Lord Ma directly projected an image of Dog 2 in the demon world into the air. Wang Ling just happened to see Loopy Toad send Taoist Horseface flying in the forehead. Taoist Horseface was furious and prepared to fight back, but just as he was about to charge over, the expressions of everyone in the Peace Embassy changed, as if they had seen something terrifying, and they all looked up at the sky. Wang Ling opened the water tank on Lord Ma's back and observed the changes in the water level inside. Lord Ma's function wasn't just for teleportation. It could also project images of the teleported person's surroundings after the teleportation, as well as sense the pressure in the vicinity of the person being teleported. The change in the water level in Lord Ma's water tank reflected the pressure in Dog 2's surroundings. When Wang Ling lifted the lid, he found that the water level in the water tank was about to reach a critical point. This had never happened before. To be able to exert such pressure, it was very likely that a true immortal had exerted it. Furthermore, Wang Ling judged that the source of this pressure wasn't ordinary, and it was very likely that this Taoist Horseface had triggered some kind of restriction. As Wang Ling had expected, a few minutes later, he watched helplessly as Taoist Horseface was destroyed by the demon world's restriction and reduced to demon sand on the ground. There was no mistaking it. This was definitely the pressure from Demon Saint, and Wang Ling could also tell this from the way the people in the image were talking. After Taoist Horseface's death, the other two territory envoys had immediately requested Demon Saint to kill Dog 2. Wang Ling's expression changed slightly at once. Even if you wanted to beat a dog, you had to look at its master first. Search for the source of Demon Saint's restriction, Wang Ling said to Lord Ma telepathically. Yes. Lord Ma immediately agreed. It was too easy for Lord Ma to do this kind of thing. This was a kind of reverse tracking magic. Among all the monsters in the villa, only Lord Ma had this ability. Very quickly, Lord Ma locked onto Demon Saint's position. Through the image he sent, Wang Ling could see a pillar towering into the clouds like a sea-stabilizing divine needle. The entire pillar was engraved with strange patterns that could be called uncanny workmanship. This was probably the legendary Holy Pillar where Demon Saint resided. This was the center of the entire demon world. At the very top of the Holy Pillar, Wang Ling saw a blue-skinned fat man in an aqua-blue Taoist robe and holding a law enforcer staff, looking down at them. His skin was glistening with fish scales. Wang Ling never thought that the legendary Demon Saint would actually really be a merman. After hearing Taoist bronze turtles and Taoist, which demons repeated requests, Demon Saint pondered with the law enforcer's staff in his hand. This magic staff's origin wasn't simple. With one glance, Wang Ling could tell that it was a world-defying magic weapon that could control the entire demon world. Demon Saint's restriction, which had directly destroyed Taoist Horseface, just now had also been activated by this magic staff. Warn him, Wang Ling ordered Lord Ma telepathically. Right after Wang Ling said this, Lord Ma manipulated his power and actually directly formed a golden cloud in front of Demon Saint, who was still in deep thought. This was a golden cloud that had been spawned by an enormous amount of spirit power. On the Holy Pillar, Demon Saint was flabbergasted. From the demon domain below to the top of the Holy Pillar, there were 90,000 layers of barriers. Furthermore, the space above the Holy Pillar had been sealed. Forget space transmission. Even telepathic messages couldn't reach here, and spells below grade 10 wouldn't work at all. But what was up with this golden cloud? Demon Saint was stupefied. He tried to wave his magic staff and launch a tentative attack on the golden cloud. But the golden cloud that Lord Ma had created immediately counterattacked, instantly paralyzing Demon Saint's hand with the law enforcer's staff, as if it had been electrocuted. Demon Saint immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He was now 100% sure that this golden cloud was at least a grade 11 spell. Fortunately, he had held back just now and hadn't used all his strength to drive it away. Otherwise, he would have really been on the verge of courting death. But what on earth was this golden cloud that had suddenly appeared? Demon Saint was stupefied. After several dozen seconds, a voice came from the golden cloud. It was Lord Ma's voice. Lord Ma was reading out Wang Ling's will. I, who serve the Supreme Sovereign, hereby exhort thee to cease thy hand and remain silent, or the day of thy death shall be announced. In fact, Wang Ling didn't think this golden cloud was anything special. It was just a very simple grade 12 telepathic spell. But as soon as Lord Ma opened his mouth, this merman Demon Saint's face instantly broke out in a cold sweat. The pressure of this voice directly penetrating him was too terrifying. His casual words almost caused the Demon Saint to kneel down. He was a peak true immortal. Furthermore, he was the wielder of the holy pillar of the demon world, and had the power of the entire demon world behind him. He was completely different from an ordinary peak true immortal, as he had the will of the entire demon world. Generally speaking, the power of the will of a world was equivalent to 10 heavenly Tao. However, the voice that came from the golden cloud made the Demon Saint shiver uncontrollably. Someone who was a supreme being. Who on earth was this? Demon Saint did his best to restrain his fear as he looked at the golden cloud. May I ask who you are, Senior? Lord Ma, the Supreme Sovereign refuses to speak to you. You're not qualified at all. But as soon as Lord Ma finished speaking, an image suddenly appeared in the golden cloud. It was a pair of eyes. Ling Zhenren's gaze. There was a clatter. Demon Saint was so scared that he dropped the magic staff in his hand. There were times when experts couldn't rely solely on auras to judge the gap between them. Sometimes it was more direct to communicate by looking at each other. The moment their eyes met, Demon Saint already felt the huge gap between their strengths. He was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. Demon Saint wasn't stupid. He could more or less guess the origin of this senior. Perhaps this person was the owner of that green-furred spirit dog below. A wise man submits to circumstances, and Demon Saint was a wise man. This person was stronger than him, and Demon Saint definitely couldn't provoke him. Otherwise, the demon world might be consigned to eternal damnation. So after some quick consideration, Demon Saint made his own judgment. He replied to Taoist Bronze Turtle and Taoist Witch Demon below. The first sentence was, deal with your own private matters. Chapter 589. Demon Saint's decisiveness was beyond Wang Ling's expectations, but he was very satisfied with it. At the very least, he didn't have to do anything himself. Wang Ling didn't want to get involved in the demon world's affairs. Although humans had been studying the demon world all these years and had even tried to uncover information on the Holy Pillar and Demon Saint, these things were too troublesome. Wang Ling didn't want to get involved at all, nor did he want to care. What's more, he didn't want to be a good Samaritan and provide national agencies with intelligence on the demon world. It was said that it was because of the inner demon that immortal Jin Yuan had split off that the gate between worlds had repeatedly descended in the human world uncontrollably, causing misunderstandings and even wars between the demon world and the human world. But now that Wang Ling had come into contact with this Demon Saint, he suddenly realized that this leader of the demon world didn't seem to be the heartless and ruthless person that people said he was. On the contrary, this was a person who abided by the rules and scrupulously abided by his duty. Even an ambassador of the demon world who violated the rules would be mercilessly punished by Demon Saint. To be honest, Wang Ling felt that this merman Demon Saint was quite clear about public and private affairs. On this side, right after Demon Saint refused Taoist Bronze Turtle's request, he felt his whole body relax, and the pressure that had been clinging to him earlier disappeared. It seemed that His Excellency Supreme had come precisely because of this matter and was quite satisfied with how he had handled it. His Excellency Supreme thinks you did a good job. It's fine as long as Your Excellency doesn't make a move. Lord Ma's voice then came from the golden cloud to express Wang Ling's thoughts on his behalf. As long as Demon Saint didn't make a move, Wang Ling couldn't be bothered with the rest. Because Demon Saint was too powerful. If Demon Saint's restriction really targeted Dog 2, this protective golden light shield wouldn't last long when Wang Ling wasn't around. But now that Demon Saint had very sensibly stopped, Wang Ling naturally didn't want to care. Wang Ling would leave the rest to Dog 2. He didn't want to steal the limelight of Dog 2's protection of his family, and he wouldn't let Demon Saint help Dog 2 punish the abominable territory demon god. Because from the very beginning, Buttface had come with the intention of ending everything. If Buttface didn't resolve this matter with his own paws, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to eat dog food in the future. On the other side, the merman Demon Saint regained his composure and looked at the golden cloud in the void. May I ask whose senior golden cloud is? His previous inquiries about Wang Ling's identity had been fruitless, so he wanted to settle for the next best thing, which was to ask who on earth this person was. In fact, even the Demon Saint himself did not expect such a terrifying existence to exist in this world. The other party's strength had probably surpassed that of a true immortal or even an immortal venerable. Demon Saint's preliminary speculation was that this senior should be an alien from outside the Milky Way. How could a human cultivator on Earth reach this level of strength? After obtaining Wang Ling's permission, Lord Ma very politely answered Demon Saint's question. I serve the Supreme Sovereign. I am the Supreme Sovereign's. When Lord Ma said this, Demon Saint raised his head, his eyes filled with awe. Lord Ma replied, I am the toilet of the Supreme Venerable One, Demon Saint. Everything had a cause and effect for the rest of their lives. Taoist, which Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle might never understand that the real reason why Demon Saint had refused so decisively was because Ling Jinren had stared at him. The fact that Demon Saint hadn't made a move was beyond Elder Win's expectations. But after all, this was the first time everyone here had dealt with Demon Saint, and no one knew why he had refused at all. As the highest leader in the demon world, the reasons for whether or not to make a move were often very simple. In the end, Taoist Bronze Turtle and Taoist, which Demon blamed it on themselves. Perhaps their pleas just now hadn't been strong enough, and Demon Saint hadn't felt their sincerity, giving him the illusion that he was being used as a tool. Fine. In the end, they still had to rely on themselves. Brother Dog, you don't have to go this far for me, Elderwin said. His words were in fact a test. He wanted to know Loopy Toad's true identity. Elderwin was sure that he had never seen this green-furred dog before, but it had felt inexplicably familiar. If it really was just a dog on the road who had drawn its sword to help out in the face of injustice, it was a little too exaggerated for it to go this far. Besides, this wasn't the so-called main road, but the peace consulate on the border between the two territories. The most important thing was that this dog wasn't a demon, but a spirit dog. Thus, Elderwin felt that Loopy Toad's purpose in helping them was even more confusing. Let's go out and fight. Dog 2 stared at the envoys from the two territories. You a dog? Taoist Bronze Turtle and Taoist, which Demon looked at each other in dismay. I a dog, am enough. After saying that, Loopy Toad opened the door on its own. As it walked out the door, it looked back at Elderwin in passing. Wait for me here. I'll explain to you after I get rid of these two people. Elder 1, with the peace consulate as a safe zone, Dog 2 felt that it couldn't be better, otherwise it would have to split its attention to protect Elder 1. You're courting death. The envoys from the two territories grit their teeth. This dog was going too far. Furthermore, it was too overconfident. They were envoys from two territories, and their strength was equal to or even higher than Demon King's. Where did a mere dog that hadn't even taken human form get its courage from? After two people and a dog left one after another, Taoist Bronze Turtle and Taoist, which Demon couldn't restrain their anger any longer. Lord Bronze Turtle, Let's work together and use long-range spells to break this dog's golden light shield first. These two people had a very clear idea of how to fight. They were clearly people who had been through a lot and were well aware of the characteristics of the golden light shield. Once it was broken, it would be very difficult for it to form again in a short period of time. If you didn't want to be devoured by the power of the golden light shield, using long-range spells was the best option. But the problem was that this was Little Master Ling's golden light shield. How could it be broken so easily? Thus, Loopy Toad didn't care at all what tactics these two people were going to use against it. In any case, it just needed to stick to them and fight. Ow! Thinking of this, Dog 2 leaped up and directly spat out the Bone King from its mouth. In an instant, the Bone King transformed into a boxing glove and attached itself to its dog paws. Facing Taoist Witch Demon, it threw out the first and second moves of the basic dog skills. Elderwin also saw this scene. Loopy Toad's attack was very fierce, but what he cared about wasn't the basic dog skills, but the spell that Loopy Toad had used when it had taken out that Emerald Greenbone Club. There was no way he was wrong. Chapter 590. The Toad Clan's swallowing technique wasn't a complicated spell. Instead, it was a common demonic spell in the demon realm. It was a spell that could be performed with either demonic or spiritual power as the source. This type of demonic spell was very rare, but the Toad Clan's swallowing technique was one of them. It wasn't complicated to learn, and many of the younger generation of the clan had already mastered it at a very young age. However, it just so happened that this was one of the Toad Clan's unique secret techniques. It rarely fell into the hands of outsiders. So when Loopy Toad took out the Bone King, Elderwin was almost instantly dazed. Previously, he felt that this green-furred dog had a very familiar feeling to him. Could it be? Elderwin's eyes were fixed on Dog 2's back, and at that moment he suddenly had a bold guess. As a territory envoy, Taoist Witch Demon had always been Ghost Emperor of the South's right-hand man, and was stronger than the average Demon King. After all, he was a demon race territory envoy of one of the 4 inner territories, and his actual combat strength wouldn't be too weak. Furthermore, as a member of the Ghost Clan, he was naturally immune to physical damage to a certain extent, and ordinary physical attacks were ineffective. As for Taoist Bronze Turtle on the side, there was no need to mention him. The Ghost Clan's natural turtle shield also had a powerful physical damage reduction effect. Loopy Toad was well aware of this. So the reason it had taken out the Bone King from the beginning was to fuse the power of Sword Dao with the Bone King glove and evolve it into a spiked glove so that it could use the power of Sword Dao to deal with these 2 territory envoys. After several rounds of getting used to the Bone King, Dog 2 had become increasingly proficient with its claws. Taoist Witch Demon and Taoist Bronze Turtle were startled when they saw this green-furred dog actually launch such a fierce melee attack from the very beginning. Taoist Witch Demon, Bronze Turtle Monarch, help me block it. I'll summon a ghost soldier. It took time to summon a ghost soldier, and it couldn't be interrupted. However, in order to break Loopy Toad's golden light shield, they could only cast a long-range spell. All right, Witch Demon Lord, I'll block it. Taoist Bronze Turtle was very cooperative as he stepped forward to block it. His entire body surged with an evil blue-black demon light, which actually turned into a powerful chainmail. Elderwin's expression suddenly changed in the consulate. This was the secret technique of the Turtle Clan, the Turtle Shield technique. It was extremely resistant to physical attacks. If it was just physical spiritual techniques, they might not be of much use. At that moment, Taoist Bronze Turtle stood alone at the front and cooperated with Taoist Witch Demon behind him to summon ghost soldiers. Because of Loopy Toad's golden light shield, Taoist Bronze Turtle didn't dare attack at all for fear of being devoured by it. This was exactly what Buttface wanted. Under the effect of the power of Sword Tao, it would be foolish for him to blindly take a defensive stance. Demon Dog, don't be too arrogant. Taoist Bronze Turtle snorted. He was extremely confident in his turtle shield technique. Once upon a time, the sturdy defense of the Turtle Clan had allowed them to achieve victory on the battlefield. Among the 4 regions, The Turtle Devil of the North was one of the best in the Turtle Clan with the Turtle Shield technique. The Turtle Devil of the North's Turtle Shield technique had been cultivated into the Great Turtle Shield technique. Not only could it block physical attacks, it could also block magical attacks. Turtle Devil wasn't a powerful attacker, but his formidable defense had once caused his opponents to suffer greatly. Now that Turtle Devil of the North was a demon god, many of the opponents he had encountered in the past have been exhausted to death by his powerful Great Turtle Shield spell. Thus, after Turtle Devil of the North succeeded as the demon god of the 4 inner territories, all the members of the Turtle Clan, regardless of species, began to study how to use the Turtle Shield technique. This was already the first compulsory course for demon beasts of the Turtle Clan after they were born. More and more little demon beasts of the Turtle Clan had mastered the essentials at a very young age. Taoist Bronze Turtle had to admit that his Turtle Shield technique was far less powerful than Turtle Devil's, but as a territory envoy, his Turtle Shield technique was already at the peak of his current realm. It would not be a problem for him to evolve it into the Great Turtle Shield spell after another 100 years of refinement. Everything happened in just a few seconds. The moment Taoist Bronze Turtle used the Turtle Shield technique to condense his chainmail and roar, Buttface hundreds of fist shadows also arrived like a hail of bullets. Taoist Bronze Turtle was still sneering when Buttface attacked. If it was just an ordinary fist skill, it would have no effect on his chainmail. However, after the 100 punches of the basic dog skills fell one after another, Taoist Bronze Turtle's expression changed. What's going on? Taoist Bronze Turtle was stunned to find that his chainmail had actually cracked under the power of this fist skill. This was something that had never happened before. Seeing that the power of Sword Dao was working, Loopy Toad didn't hold back at all. Now that it had combined the power of the Bone King, its power of Sword Dao was already in its embryonic form. As it approached Taoist Bronze Turtle, he could already sense that there seemed to be a strange gravitational field around this strange green fur dog that was pulling him in. His body was dragged forward uncontrollably. At that moment, Taoist Bronze Turtle felt like a 5,000-kilogram weight that was being pulled forward by a powerful gravitational force. The uncontrollable force pulled his body and plowed a deep ravine on the ground. A completely naked green-furred dog wildly brandished its emerald green, spiked boxing gloves. Loopy Toad could clearly feel that the power of Sword Dao had become even more refined than the last time it had used it. Its proficiency level had already reached 70%. This meant that it had already mastered most of the power of the 10-meter Sword Dao. Under the bombardment of the powerful punches that were accompanied by the power of Sword Dao, the cracks in Taoist Bronze Turtle's chainmail grew more and more numerous. The final blow, Loopy Toad said in a low voice. When it gathered strength for the final punch, the power of Sword Dao actually directly pierced through the chainmail. When the intangible power of Heavenly Dao entered Taoist Bronze Turtle's body, he actually couldn't maintain his human form, and his face directly turned from a human face into a human face. Then blood sprayed out from his nose. He was directly sent flying by this punch. Elder One was aghast. Loopy Toad's strength had already exceeded his expectations. It was just a set of punches, but it had actually caused serious internal injuries to the territory envoy of the Turtle Clan, who had always been confident in his defense. Mr. Bronze Turtle! Behind Taoist Bronze Turtle, Taoist Witch Demon gritted his teeth. He also hadn't expected a green-furred dog's attack to be so powerful. He could clearly sense that Taoist Bronze Turtle's aura had weakened. If the attack came again, Taoist Bronze Turtle probably wouldn't be able to survive the next round. Taoist Bronze Turtle struggled to prop himself up as he knelt on the ground and spat out blood. His face was filled with horror, and even the way he looked at Dog 2 had changed. Although it was still very hard to believe, just now he had indeed sensed the aura of Heavenly Dao in this unknown green-furred spirit dog's punches. Chapter 591. The truth was that when Loopy Toad had used the basic dog skills, Taoist Bronze Turtle had already sensed what he suspected to be the power of heavenly Tao, but he hadn't dared confirm it. When those hundreds of meteor-like punches landed on his turtle shield spell chain armor, Taoist Bronze Turtle had a look of disbelief in his eyes. The power of heavenly Tao mixed in with the punches had directly shattered his chain armor and pierced through his body. If it hadn't been for the fact that this power of heavenly Tao didn't seem to be at its full strength, he would have already died just now. Taoist Bronze Turtle was actually right, because Dog 2 could only unleash 70% of its power at the moment, and that was when he was relying on the Bone King. If he had been like evil Sword God and relied on his own power to unleash the full power of level 10 of Sword Tao, Taoist Bronze Turtle would have died long ago. Witch Demon Lord, let's retreat for now. There's something wrong with this green fur dog. Taoist Bronze Turtle vaguely sensed that something was wrong. This was clearly a spirit dog that had yet to take human form, but it actually had the power of heavenly Tao in its body. It was very obvious that either this dog wasn't normal, or its owner wasn't simple. After being pierced by Loopy Toad's power of heavenly Tao, Taoist Bronze Turtle calmed down and could only think of these two possibilities. However, Taoist Witch Demon was already ready to strike, and wasn't going to stop at that moment. Don't be afraid, Witch Demon Lord, get behind me. I'll definitely make this mongrel dog pay a price dozens of times higher than your injuries. Taoist Witch Demon didn't listen to Taoist Bronze Turtle's advice at all. While Taoist Bronze Turtle was blocking Dog 2's attack, he had already set up the ghost flags and a large array on the ground. At that moment, he let out a roar and formed a seal. Countless pitch-black clouds in the sky rolled over like a sea of clouds, giving off a great sense of pressure. Elderwin was inexplicably shocked. Ghost soldiers of this level definitely weren't something that Taoist Witch Demon could summon on his own. The ghost flags he had set up on the ground were most likely fused with the power of the Ghost Emperor of the South. The strength of these ghost soldiers was close to that of a nascent soul cultivator, and the ghost generals among them were even at Demon King level. The problem was that there were too many of them. There weren't just a dozen or 20 of them. They were constantly being created in that roiling black sea of clouds. Brother Dog, you must destroy the ghost returning array. Elderwin reminded him in the peace consulate. In the current situation, Taoist Bronze Turtle had been seriously injured. If he went out to help this dog brother, he would definitely have the upper hand in the situation. However, Elderwin was afraid that these two cunning people still had other tricks up their sleeves. The Toad Clan had a lot of offensive spells, and most of them were used for support and defense. Most of them were control-type spells. Therefore, when facing opponents with long-range attack capabilities, they would usually appear quite weak. Therefore, it was not that Elderwin did not want to go out, but he was afraid that his rash action would instead become a stumbling block. At least from the current situation, even without him, this dog brother still had the upper hand. Elderwin had decided in his heart that if the other party was going to sacrifice any big killing move, he would immediately rush out and do his best to block the righteous dog brother, helping the other party to escape. Of the three envoys, Taoist Witch Demon had always been the most difficult to deal with. Soldiers and generals, listen up. Tear that green-furred mongrel up ahead to shreds. Taoist Witch Demon guarded the ghost array he had set up. In his hand was a very small ghost flag, which was an important key to give orders to all the ghost soldiers and ghost generals that had been created in the sky after the ghost array was set up. This resentment was too strong. The ghost soldiers and ghost generals in the sky were thousands of zhong away from Loopy Toad, but even so, it still felt oppressed. This was something that the Golden Light Shield couldn't protect. It could stop these evil spirits from invading the body, but it couldn't stop this kind of strong mental pressure. Dog 2 gritted its teeth. It had to deal with Taoist Witch Demon faster than it had with Taoist Bronze Turtle. Right now, the number of ghost soldiers and ghost generals could still be counted with the naked eye, but if the battle dragged on, it wouldn't be able to deal with these tens of thousands of ghost soldiers and ghost generals at the same time. Kill! This dense mass of evil spirits roared and screamed wildly, their ear-piercing voices shaking heaven and earth. Loopy Toad was accumulating power. The spikes on its glove abruptly sprouted out in large numbers. It had already unleashed the power of the 10-meter sword Tao to the limit of what it could do. "It's no use, mongrel dog. Taoist," which demon sneered. "These ghost soldiers and ghost generals contain the power of the ghost emperor of the south. Given your strength, there's no way you can resist the power of a demon god. Your ugly fist technique has no effect on my ghost soldiers and ghost generals." In the end, as soon as Taoist, which demon, said this, two ghost soldiers charged at the green-furred dog from the left and right at the same time. Buttface's movements were swift and agile. He dodged the pincer attack of the two ghost soldiers at a tricky angle. This swift reaction was thanks to Sheep and Jinka's training earlier. To Dog 2, these ghost soldiers really looked a little clumsy. They were slower than Sheep and weaker than Jinka. Loopy Toad took a deep breath, took out its tape recorder from its mouth, and started to play Dragon Fist. "My right paw opens the sky. I turn to a dog, move the mountains and rivers, and fill up the cracks. Aura, 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 aura. Oh, hit, 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 hit." Its basic dog skills became faster and faster, and the ghost soldiers who swooped down from the sky cried out the moment they touched the shadow of the fist and were directly shaken to pieces. "What's going on?" Taoist, which demon, stared at this scene in disbelief. "It can't be wrong. Which demon lord? There's the power of heavenly Tao in this mongrel dog's body." Taoist Bronze Turtle struggled to prop himself up. He had already used several self-healing spells in a row, but none of them had the slightest effect on his internal injuries. This was enough to prove that this was the power of heavenly Tao. After being hit by the power of heavenly Tao, it was nonsense to rely on self-healing spells to heal in a short period of time. How can a mongrel dog that hasn't transformed have the power of heavenly Tao? Taoist, which demon, was a little weak. Taoist Bronze Turtle. "That's the strange thing. Which demon lord? I think it's better if we retreat first." Retreat? The truth was that Taoist, which demon, hadn't thought about retreating at all. How honorable were they, the envoys of two demon territories? They were actually helpless against a green-furred dog. He grit his teeth. "No matter what, at the very least, we have to break its golden light shield and kill some of its might." But just as Taoist, which demon, was about to have the ghost soldiers and ghost generals attack Loopy Toad again, Loopy Toad suddenly stopped. Because at that moment, Loopy Toad suddenly realized that it actually didn't have to do it personally at all. Hadn't Genuine, that guy, given it an Immortal Seal Master Seal before? It hadn't used it even once. With the idea of giving it a try, Loopy Toad spat out the Immortal Seal Master Seal from its mouth. The moment it injected spirit energy into it, a holy light, like that of an angel, appeared in the sky. Then, the ghost soldiers and ghost generals that filled the sky were directly dispersed. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.